reflecting on this measure of justice, this modicum of justice that has been meted out, at least in one of those cases. There are still countless others. And I think at the last count, we were talking about some 300 cases that the TRC had said these people either failed to meet the requirements to be granted amnesty from prosecution for their apartheid-era crimes, or simply did not come forward to apply for that amnesty, and therefore, they should live with the consequences of their decision and should be prosecuted. But my goodness, you and I know the journey to justice for many of these families. We cover them all the time here on the show. The journey to justice has just been a long one, and it continues for many of them. But at least this one family has seen a measure of justice. So we'll speak to Pitika Ntuli, unpack the implications. He'll join me at 7 a.m. Speaking of justice then, the former double Olympic champion Caster Semenya, as Zai was telling you a few moments ago, has scored an important victory in her long-standing battle against world athletics after the European Court of Human Rights has found that Switzerland's Federal Supreme Court violated her right to a fair hearing when it dismissed her 2020 appeal against World Athletics' regulations that target female athletes with differences in sexual development. That's known as DSD. So you'll remember that those are the regulations that require affected female athletes to suppress their naturally occurring testosterone levels in order to compete in middle distance events. So it's those regulations that barred her from competing unless she medically reduced her naturally occurring high testosterone levels. So a victory for Caster Semenya. While the ruling does not overturn the regulations themselves, it opens a key door in Semenya's long legal and human rights battle and brings into focus the growing scrutiny of how sports governance intersects with athletes' fundamental rights. So at about 8:20, I'll be in conversation with Advocate Tsepo Madlingozi, who is a commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission. They've been part of the support structure for Caster Semenya in this long-standing battle that she's waged against world athletics around these regulations around testosterone levels. And then let me flag this story for you very quickly. Republic of South Africa or Republic of Azania? Which one rolls off the tongue easier for you? Or importantly, which one resonates with your sense of national identity, African identity, pride, and affirmations of decolonization? And does all of that matter? Is it important at this juncture? These are some of the questions that may arise pointedly if the African Transformation Movement, the ATM, has its way. A constitutional amendment that would change our country's name to Azania is but one of the part of the raft of amendments that the party is hoping to force onto the agenda and get backing for from other political parties and South Africans broadly. The party argues that the name South Africa is a colonial construct imposed through the formation of the Union of South Africa in 1910, and that reclaiming an African name would symbolize national self-determination and post-colonial dignity. But critics argue, and they see the proposal as largely symbolic, lacking practical value and historical consensus. I'm keen to hear from you on this debate, and we will speak to Vuyolwethu Zungula, who is the parliamentary leader of the African Transformation Movement. That conversation coming up at about 10 to 7. Morning Brief team, to your stations, please, for the takeoff this morning. And Musa at the ready with your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne has your traffic updates. Zaikan with all of your sports. And Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. And she is on standby to give us that in the next few minutes. Dauleng Lechela, drum roll. Live and direct in the studio, has your business, economics, and market news covered. And of course, More Africa, Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7. You can be part of this conversation. I want you to be part of this conversation. Give me a call. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. We have a long journey to cover, so let's get the Friday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
My name is Renelle Tamlin Donnelly, and I play striker. What do my teammates call me instead of my actual name? As you know, guys, because I wear a weave, so they call me Slay Queen. Guys, I slay it, so yeah, my favorite hairstyle is a weave. Have I already planned my secret celebration for when I score my first goal at RAFCON? I have, but secret is the code, so tune into SABC Sport to catch my secret celebration in the RAFCON tournament.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Temba, how do I check if I've been auto-assessed by SARS?
No need to stress at all. Go to the SARS online query system dashboard, SOX. It only takes a few minutes.
Really? Where do I find it?
Go to the SARS website and then look for the SOX dashboard icon. Make tax matters your priority number one. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
They both have a rich history of glory.
Frustration for the home support here.
Amakosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
Kicking us off with the briefing session this morning, as always, Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Let's start with news coming out of Mahlamba Ndlovu, out of the Union buildings, the West Wing of the Union buildings. Tell me what President Ramaphosa is saying about these allegations leveled by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. President Cyril Ramaphosa will address the nation on Sunday following serious allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and senior SAPS officials. Mkhwanazi accused them of corruption and collusion with criminal networks, sparking national concern. The president has been consulting with key stakeholders due to the implications for national security since his return from a BRICS summit in Brazil. Mkhwanazi specifically linked Mchunu to controversial figures involved in violent crimes and corrupt tenders. Parliament and opposition parties have called for urgent investigations, and Mkhwanazi's security has been increased due to threats against his life. So it's going to be quite an interesting next couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leading up to that.
Absolutely. And the deputy president telling us yesterday that the president, in the build-up to that address to the nation, has been consulting with the various role players who are involved. So you can imagine all of those names that you just mentioned, especially the ones in the state, will be consulted over the coming days before we hear from the president on Sunday. Tell me what the Minister of Social Development, Sisi Tolashe, has been saying about this process that SASSA is undertaking to verify beneficiaries.
So, Social Development Minister Sisi Tolashe has assured the public that no social grants will be cancelled without proper verification. Speaking during her budget vote in Parliament, she highlighted efforts to combat fraud at SASSA, which could save the state up to 1 billion rand annually. Tolashe confirmed plans to transition the COVID-era SRD grant into a permanent basic income grant with links to to employment opportunities. While verification processes have caused disruptions, the minister urged affected beneficiaries to cooperate with them. She also announced that all SASSA offices will have biometric systems by the end of the year to help them curb the fraud within the organization.
And a constant, lament or cry you hear from many people that you interact with almost on a daily basis, Melissa, is just how strong this year's flu strain has been. I've heard quite a number of people say, this year's flu strain has been quite strong. Luckily, I don't have such problems. I rarely ever get the flu.
Oh, lucky you. As South Africans face an early and active 2025 flu season, the NICD is urging the public to take precautions with flu and SRV cases rising. The flu season began 4 weeks earlier than in 2024, and SRV is peaking later than usual, posing risks of, especially to children, the elderly, and immune-compromised individuals. Although COVID-19 remains at low levels, vigilance continues for all respiratory viruses. Vaccination, hygiene, and staying at home when sick are strongly advised. Professor Bertram Fielding also warned about potential zoonotic threats like avian flu and highlighted the importance of genomic surveillance in preparing for future outbreaks. So people are urged to be careful and to follow all safety precautions during this winter season.
Sensible advice. Thank you for that, Melissa. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, here's how it's looking on this Friday. Let me start with two warnings that have come through from the South African Weather Service. The first one is a yellow level 2 warning. It says damaging waves resulting in difficulty in navigation at sea and small vessels at risk of taking on water and capsizing. That is expected between Honderklip Bay and Plettenberg Bay until Saturday afternoon. The second one, yellow level 1 warning, it says damaging waves and winds resulting in difficulty in navigation, small vessels at risk of taking on water, and localized disruption to ports or harbors. That is expected between Plettenberg Bay and Hamburg until Saturday. The rest of your weather will be looking like this. Pretoria will be fine with a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 19. Johannesburg fine 0 to 20. Mbombela fine 7 to 23, Polokwane fine 4 to 22. Mahikeng will be fine with a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 20. Bloemfontein fine -1 to 19. Kimberley fine and windy 6 to 22. Uppington fine and windy 11 to 23. Cape Town will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain 12 to 14. George will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain 9 to 17. Gqeberha will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 20. East London will be partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and rain with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 24. Durban will be fine 13 to 25. Richards Bay fine 14 to 29. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be fine with a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 24.
On SAFM.
In light of what was said by General Mkhwanazi and the fact that Mr. Matlala's profile was now in the public space or raised because of those allegations, then it was also in his interest for him to be moved to CMAX prison.
And we were asked, why is this inmate at CMAX? The National Commission then provided a response that no, this offender had to be moved there because we confiscated a mobile phone. We never issued a statement to that effect.
And the fact that you are unable to provide an answer as to whether this happened before or after the briefing by General Mkhwanazi in and of itself will raise questions.
It's not a matter of being unable, but we are not going to come on air and then give detail in terms of security operations.
Singabako Ngumalo.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen and nothing is off the agenda.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
tensions in the Red Sea have escalated sharply after Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels attacked and sank the commercial ship Eternity Sea, killing 4 crew members and reportedly kidnapping several others. The attack marks the second vessel sunk by the Houthis in less than a week, reigniting global concerns over maritime security in one of the world's most critical trade routes. So let's speak to Timothy Walker, maritime project leader and senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. Good morning to you, Timothy, and thank you for your time once again. This incident occurring in the Red Sea. Just tell me about the Red Sea and its importance as an arena in terms of the many battles and wars, the complex web of conflicts in the Middle East, but importantly, implications of that being an arena for global trade routes.
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, the Red Sea it contains one of the most important shipping routes in the world. One end is the Suez Canal, and the other end, the Bab el-Mandeb. They really squeeze most shipping, which wants to operate cheaply, between Europe and Asia, and the number of ships going through at any one time creates tremendous revenue for Egypt because it charges a toll or a fee for going through the Suez Canal. And all around the Red Sea now, what we're seeing is growing insecurity amongst many of the countries. For instance, Sudan, with the devastating war that they've been suffering for several years now. Attacks recently have targeted the ports. You have countries, for instance, over the last couple of years in Yemen, Saudi Arabia and the UAE conducted a war to try and displace the Houthi several years ago. And the Houthi have shown themselves to be very resilient, very undeterred, and now have recommenced, it seems, the war on shipping, with more military equipment and intent to cause devastation than we've ever seen over the last 2 years.
How does this stack up against what the international law and norms are in terms of commercial shipping? Because from what I read here, this was not a military ship. It wasn't a frigate or anything like that. Yeah. So what are the rules?
Yeah, well, the Houthi have no right to target any of these vessels under international law, under the Law of the Sea Convention, which is signed by most countries of the world, and if not signed by them, enforced as customary law by most countries around the world. You have a fundamental right called the freedom of navigation, which is any ship can go about their business, sailing through international waters as well as even entering territorial waters without any fear of being intercepted by a coastal power. But the only people who can, or the only signatories to that kind of convention are states. And the Houthi are not recognized as a state. They may be a de facto state in the sense that there's no other authority in the area they control, and they do all sorts of things which states do, like raise taxes or have an authority over people. But in terms of the right of shipping to be unmolested by any kind of coastal power, nobody has that kind of right unless they have really kind of significant security concerns. And even then, the primary authority on a ship at sea is the flag state. And this is where we're encountering quite an issue, is because Liberia, in this case, is the flag state of both vessels attacked. And if a Liberian vessel is attacked, you would expect the Liberian government or even the Liberian Navy to be involved. But obviously, the Liberian Navy, in effect, is almost non-existent. So it's kind of this legal quandary of who has liability and who is able to respond effectively.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Timothy Walker, maritime project leader and senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Wanna guess what shirt I'm wearing? I'm wearing a sweater, obviously, because, it's a bit chilly and everything. But underneath, I'm wearing something blue.
Something borrowed. Something new and something blue. Woo! Okay. Yeah, no pressure for you.
I did not expect that. Anyway.
I don't know, Thulas. But yeah, I wish you guys well, huh?
I see you don't have that story on your bulletin, but it's fine. We'll let it slide. Go ahead. It's okay.
Let me count down. How many minutes have I got? 1.5 minutes to give you all the sports stories. We'll start with this one where our South African Olympic legend, Semenya, scoring a landmark victory at the European Court of Human Rights Grand Chamber with a ruling that Switzerland denied her a fair hearing in her challenge to World Athletics testosterone rules. While the court stopped short of calling the rules discriminatory, it's now granted her over 1.6 million rand in legal costs and extend the chance of her case to be heard again in Swiss or CAS court. Semenya retired from competition and she's now coaching. Soccer action. Banyana are aiming to seal their spot in the WAFCON knockout stages tonight, 9 p.m. against Tanzania in Ujda after a solid 2-0 win over Ghana. They sit atop Group C and a win tonight could confirm their progression with a game in hand. Now, Algeria and Tunisia, they played to a goalless draw. Tunisia, they remain in contention ahead of their final group match against Botswana. Algeria will face Nigeria in a high-stakes showdown on Sunday. Let's go to some other news, and it is the tennis star Iga Swiatek banishing the last of her grass court demons. She blazed into her first Wimbledon final with a 6-2, 6-love demolition of Belinda Bencic.
Well, I haven't followed her previous matches today. I followed because I was playing after, so I didn't watch though. So for sure, she must be playing great. She also had great tournament before Wimbledon, so she knows how to play on grass, and with her game style, the surface, fits her. So it's gonna be a challenge. But yeah, I haven't watched a lot, so I'm gonna just prepare tactically tomorrow.
And finally, the world number one Arina Sabalenka saw her Wimbledon campaign end in heartbreak, losing a 6-4, 4-6, 6-4 semi-final to America's Amanda Anisimova. We'll be back serving you sport top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, embattled businessman Vuzimuzi Kat Matlala is expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. He's facing charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder and money laundering after an alleged attempted hit on his former partner. 2 suspected kidnappers have been shot dead by police and 3 others arrested in Randfontein on Gauteng's West Rand. A 60-year-old businessman from Lenasia was rescued and has been reunited with his family. And US President Donald Trump says he's imposing a 35% tariff for goods imported to the United States from Canada from next month. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Pretoria. First up, more disruption for Linwood Road users due to these roadworks. Linwood Road is closed towards Pretoria, just over the N1 highway as you come into Menlo Park through to Atterbury Road. It's quite an extensive closure, so you'll be able to get across the highway on Linwood Road, but you'll be diverted around that work zone pretty quickly once you get across the highway. Gauteng Highway is looking all right this morning, no major disruptions. Durban, the Higginson Highway coming out of Chatsworth, quite slow to Havenside. There's also backlog on the N2 South from Umgeni Road, making your way down through Clare Road Bridge territory. That's possibly a breakdown. Good news, Stapleton Road has been reopened yesterday. Stapleton Road this morning will be the first morning you'll be able to get through that area near Eden Road without having to divert and clog up local alternatives. So that's a really good result. Breakdown at Hammersdale on your way down to Durban, so watch for some slowing traffic there. And a major truck crash at Nsileni if you're driving north of Mpangeni, sort of Mpangeni Matuba, but just at Nsileni north of Mpangeni. Big truck crash and lane restrictions both ways there. Cape Town, some rain about the city, so take it easy. That rain set for most of today. And Govan and Becky under pressure between Crossroads and Cape Flats, Khayelitsha and Cape Flats, protesting at Steve Biko Junction and the long-term roadworks at Danafontein Road. That section of Govan and Becky all pretty heavily backed up. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Well, the one person who said they will come through, and she's here. She's here in the flesh doing constituency work, coming through that annual constituency work, checking on the poor constituency to see if we're still okay. Darling Lechela, good morning.
Morning, Tulas. I'm barely awake.
That was the whole point. Just get you to suffer with us for a little bit. Tell me about Ferrero. Are these the chocolate makers and this Kellogg that they are acquiring? Is it the Kellogg that we know?
Yes, it's the brands you know and love. The Ferrero being the Italian chocolate maker, and Kellogg, of course, housing brands like Kellogg's, Fruit Loops, Rice Krispies. There are both companies. They're in a tie-up. Ferrero is looking to acquire WK Kellogg for about $3.1 billion. The deal will see the chocolate brands integrate with brands like Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, Special K, and Rice Krispies. Now, the deal deepens Ferrero's ambitions in the U.S. market, expanding its presence across more consumption occasions. Now, Ferrero plans to invest in and grow the brands, leveraging its successful acquisition strategy in North America. The deal is pending regulatory approval, and Ferrero says its operations in Michigan will remain the headquarters after the transaction closes. When I was doing some reading on the deal, a lot of commentary from analysts were around the trend we're seeing at the moment, where we're seeing a lot of these big food consumer groups consolidating. One even pointed to tariff risks, and some of the European food makers or food producers are looking at acquisitions within the US to grow production on that front.
It's probably a silly comment, but you can imagine the kids hoping that now that Ferrero is involved,
you don't get chocolate flavored Rice Krispies.
There'll be more chocolate, in the Cocoa Pops and all of these things that are there. And the parents would probably be hoping for the opposite. Tell me about TSMC and their upbeat revenue. You're saying that they're benefiting from a boom in AI.
Of course, they are the largest chip maker in the world, and their biggest customer is NVIDIA. So no surprise that the boom in AI spending is also filtering through to the company's results. They've reported revenue exceeding market expectations, coming in at $31.9 billion. The second quarter revenue, of course, driven by surging demand for AI applications. This growth is also attributed to TSMC's long-standing contract with NVIDIA. As a result, we also saw a 40% jump in revenue for the first half of the year. TSMC's strong performance has reinforced optimism around continued investment in AI infrastructure. Now, we'll get a full picture of the company's second quarter performance next week and its outlook when it's out with results on the 17th of July.
Lastly, Ntauleng, a recap of how we closed yesterday and how we're looking in those markets that have already opened.
So markets continue to somewhat shrug off the tariff concerns, with many analysts applying taco trade. With that, U.S. stocks closed in the green overnight, led by gains in the Dow Jones, up close to 0.5%. Coming back home, the JSE was mixed, the all-share managing to close slightly in the green, up 0.14%. The higher platinum price still boosting the resource counter, edging up close to 0.7% in yesterday's session. Those higher commodity prices also keeping the rand stable. It's at 17.77 to the dollar. Lastly, in Asia, markets mostly in positive territory. Japanese markets still under pressure on the back of those tariff threats.
What did you say? Taco trade is what is at play?
Yes.
Is that a thing now? That's what it's called.
Thing. We all
Trump
use
always
it.
chickens out.
Yes.
All right, darling. It's good to have you in the studio. We'll talk to you in the second hour of the show.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. I'm looking forward to your historical archives, but I've got to curb my enthusiasm. Let's start with the stories you have on the agenda. Tell me about the African Union Executive Council in Malabo in Equatorial Guinea. South Africa is the delegation there is led by Minister Ronald Lamola.
Refreshing morning, Thulas, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, there is a meeting in Equatorial Guinea that has started yesterday, ending today. Minister Lamola is leading the SA delegation, Thulas, to this meeting. This meeting will do three things, Thulas. They have to adopt the African Union budget for 2026. Secondly, they have to appoint outstanding commissioners on economic, trade, tourism, industry and minerals, as well as education, science, technology and innovation. Minister Lamola will also take advantage to us of the South Africa's G20 presidency to update the other ministers about what is the current situation, since it is going to be held in November 2025, how they can amplify the African voice on the global stage. Finally, also Thulas, he's looking also at the issue of silencing of the guns by 2030 and acceleration of the second 10-year plan of Agenda 2063. This is a very important meeting, Thulas, that will end today in Equatorial Guinea, the capital city, Malabo.
And then tell me about what's coming out of Bamako, the military junta there, an extension of the term of office for the junta leader, General Assimi Goïta.
Plus, Goïta will stand in power until 2030. He has signed this bill granting himself the powers, which says that he might renew it as many times as necessary without elections. Now, this bill was signed yesterday into law, Thulas. And secondly, when you look at this bill also, the same mantra we see in South Africa, Thulas, they are calling for the national dialogue consultation, which was actually rejected in April by many political parties. But this bill also strengthens that there must be a national dialogue. And as I have said, Thulas, Assimi Goïta will be in power until 2030. To say when will the elections be held after 2030, we don't know, Thulas. But this is a strengthening of the alliance of the Sahel with the generals holding power and also separating what I'll always say, Thulas, the military and civilian relations is affected because the military belongs to the barracks, civilians belongs to the state house.
And then tell me closer to home, Sipho, the state of disaster lasting 2 years that Lesotho has declared. In part, it has to do with the decisions of the Trump administration of the recent months, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Thulas. The Deputy Minister of Lesotho, Ntumeng Majare, yesterday, Thulas, explained that this state of disaster will end in 2027 on the 30th of June. And this is to allow the government of Lesotho to take urgent actions to deal with what we call economic shock and the 50% tariff on goods from Lesotho. That is also affecting what we call the textile industry. That's why they have lost a lot of people who have now jobless in the kingdom of Lesotho. We know, again, Lesotho Thulas was enjoying what we call the AGOA trade agreement. So this is said, Thulas, looking at how this global traffic of tariffs has affected the Southern Hemisphere, and at the same time, Trump is dealing with the African continent in this manner, and Lesotho is feeling this pain, Thulas.
So that links and threads nicely with our next story, doesn't it, Sipho? Because the next story has to do with the attempts by the Trump administration to broker a peace process in Sudan. There's been commentary that says he's doing all of these activities because, he really wants to be nominated and perhaps even win the Nobel Peace Prize. I suppose the conversation would be, is peace merely the absence of war? And I
wow, Thulas, a very important line that you have raised about peace and war.
Yeah.
The issue is that Trump, as you know, he met 5 Western African nations. Now, in that meeting, he did announce also that the U.S. will facilitate the peace process of Sudan, and particularly North Sudan here, Thulas. And he's saying that America will engage with Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Egypt as the members that are called the Quartet that will re-engage on the process in Sudan. And you will recall that America has got interest in Sudan also, Thulas, because they are also using the Port Sudan. They have been engaging on the DRC and Rwanda. Now they are trying also to mediate on the crisis in Sudan. And we know, Thulas, I've said before, this mediation has got a national interest on the American foreign policy of looking at the strategic minerals and the oil that is in Sudan. And hence Trump had to brag in that meeting. And you saw our African leaders in that meeting, from Joseph Boakai, from Basio, Fire from Senegal. I mean, Thulas bowing and pleading from Trump to assist them. Now we see him bragging once more to say, I will lead the peace mediation in North Sudan. And you ask yourself, where is the United Nations? Where is the Arab League? And as well, where is the African Union?
No, look, I think... so this is the second conflict in Africa in which the Trump administration is trying to have some effort towards peace. And Sipho, I suppose, let it not be understood that, any peace process is not appreciated. It is appreciated,
Absolutely.
Any process that ends a conflict. But I mean, you then see it also in the context of the other activities. And you say to yourself, to what extent are the other activities, such as the tariffs and the trade wars and everything, contributing to stability in the world? And I suppose that's the point of the comment I was making. Anyway, let's get to your historical archives. I'm particularly excited about the one that you shared with me overnight, Sipho. It has to do with the Bafana Bafana on the 11th of July, 1992. And that video was quite enjoyable, that talked about the reintegration into international football. But start with the one around Rivonia.
Thulas, we know very well. I could not leave that one for our listeners who were, probably they were there, no, Thulas, who were in 1963, when we know the apartheid police raided the African National Congress underground HQ that was in Lily's Leaf Farm in Rivonia, just outside Gauteng province. Thulas, that's where the arrest of Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Ahmed Kathrada, Raymond Mhlaba was done, and that's where the ANC, Thulas, you'll remember, Mandela was just coming back from exile and arrested in 1962. Again in 1963, they were arrested by the apartheid government. So it is an important day in our political historical context. The second one on what I call the power of soccer, Thulas, 1992, that's almost 83 years ago, when South Africa was admitted. And the first games that they played, you'll recall, Thulas, was Cameroon. They played 3 international friendlies, but this one was very important on this day. Hence, I was challenging you and Zai. I say, I'll give you with Zai that you will recall that game ended up on this day. It was 2-2, and those from South Africa who scored those goals were Bennett Masinga and Philemon Chipa Masinga. The lineup, I will take listeners back. You will recall names like Steve Kompela, Mark Anderson, Sam Iwi Kambule, Donald A. Skuze, Theophilus, Dr. Kumalo, Lucas Hadev, David Nyati, Neil Tovi Mukoko. And who was the coach by then? It was Skrima Shabalala. Very important archive, Thulas, because that take us back. But Cameroon, you had Roger Mela. You had people like Julius Dineso, Jean-Claude Pagal. Those were the names. And Fanny Matida, also from South Africa. So this was a lineup, Thulas, in 1992, just before 1994, when we came back into the international soccer fraternity.
And in fact, Sipho, Cameroon was still riding the tide of their performance at the World Cup in 1990.
At the World Cup.
And the video that you shared was Stanley Skrima Chabalala with former players reminiscing about how the team selection went and how they didn't even have a template of how do you even put together a national team. It was absolutely enjoyable.
And remember that national team, to put it, it was one player every team. But Skrima Chabalala went beyond. From Chiefs and Sundowns, he took more than 2 players to us. And that's how funny it is. And that interview is Dr. Kumalo, Edward Mutale, Tebogo Muloyi, and Mark Williams, who were being entertained by the late Skrima Chabalala. What a storyteller and a person who had a knowledge, working with the then Ephraim Sheikh's Mashaba Thulas. That's how important when you look at what I call the power of the politics of soccer in this country in the early years of 1992. Asante Sana Thulas, as was leading the conversation, SFM observing the International Mandela Month as well as the Rivonia Day and the Bafana Bafana game with Cameroon. Asante Sana Thulas.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula with your Africa update for this morning.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
Some songs take you back instantly to your first love, a road trip, or just simpler times. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, is where timeless hits and forgotten favorites come together to tell your story. It's not just music, it's memories, moments, and the meaning behind this jam.
Don't you change.
Rediscover the songs that shaped your journey. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m., only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, a few of your comments coming through, and I'm loving the diversity of topics that you want to raise. Pull me in any direction. I'm happy for you to do that. Let me take this one. Someone talking about the Zondo Commission. Let's hear what that is all about.
Good morning. Given all those named in the Zondo Commission who have gone unprosecuted, those cabinet ministers who are still in Parliament despite the charges against them, and now the police commissioner, a good name would be South Columbia, and the next police minister should be called Paul Stellenbosch.
I think I get what you're saying there, what you're hinting at there. Thank you for that. And of course, there's this concern about whether the Zondo Commission recommendations will go unimplemented, and in 10 years, 15 years' time, we'll be doing what we're doing with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations, in that we'll be having a commission of inquiry to look into why the Zondo Commission recommendations were not implemented. Well, some of them, because there's been quite a number that have been implemented, and that really for me is one of my biggest worries, that 15, 20 years from now we'll be having a massive debate about what happened, why were these not implemented, and then whoever is president then will decide to institute a commission of inquiry into that.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and your listeners. It's Velim Julu of Richards Bay. I'm a truck. Thulasizwe, the only thing that we are left with right now, because of this ANC over here in South Africa, is the sea and the sea salt and the oxygen. If any of those things, they can have access in it, we are done. I thank you.
Yeah, as I always make the point, the ANC has done a bit of self-introspection, right, over the last few years leading up to the various processes. But I think a sentiment like this is a sentiment that they are very familiar with. And I think someone suggested that we should have Fikile Mbalula on the show. We would need to clear, I think we would need to give him enough time. So we'd need to clear the second hour, the first half hour of the second hour, so that we only have him as that interview. But this sentiment coming through, you hear it from time to time, and the ANC is very much aware of that sentiment. The question is, what are they doing about it? How are they doing things differently such that they win over skeptics and even cynics? That really is the challenge for the ANC whenever you hear a comment such as this one. We will make time and take more of your calls a bit later on.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. We started Pretoria with the closure of Linwood Road. Linwood Road is currently closed just on the western side of the M1 highway for roadworks, likely to be closed right through drive time this morning. They work overnight and it extends to 8:30 or 9:30 in the morning. Linwood Road full closure between Rodricks and Rosemary, so expect some delays and diversions through that part of capital city. Highways around Gauteng generally okay, a lot lighter this morning. And a crash on Soweto Circle, so Cliffsrand Valley and Soweto Highway, just expect some delays there. A couple of issues around Durban this morning. One is a breakdown at Cliffdale. Quite a heavy queue from Hammersdale side on your way towards Durban. A crash after Gena Road, so the N2 South 3 and Under Road down towards the Clare Road Bridge and Westwood Malls all backed up. The northbound side pretty heavy this morning coming up into the roadworks around Westwood Mall. Higginson Highway out of Chatsworth very slow today out towards the Havenside junction on your way towards the N2. And a massive truck crash, lost load and collision all happening in Seleni area. The N2 both ways is queuing heavily just north of Mpangeni into that scene. If you don't fancy it, travel a little bit later. Stop-go controls at the moment. Cape Town looking okay. Volume's a lot lighter than you might be expecting. It is school holidays and a Friday, so that's all pretty much, I guess, par for the course. There is a bit of a standout. Bosmansdam Road going off the N7 down to Montague Drive, passing Summer Greens. That's all heavy, and that'll start to back up traffic on the N7 North approaching that off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It's all about fresh fish and vibrant flavors on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as our top four visit the Hout Bay Harbour for a crash course in seafood the old school way. Then reel in a gourmet seafood takeaway experience of their own. Who will sink and who will swim into the semi-finals? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
Temba, how do I check if I've been auto-assessed by SARS?
No need to stress at all. Go to the SARS online query system dashboard, SOCS. It only takes a few minutes.
Really? Where do I find it?
Go to the SARS website and then look for the SOCS dashboard icon. Make tax matters your priority number one. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
So let's get to that story then that I flagged earlier on. Republic of South Africa or Republic of Azania? Which one rolls off the tongue easier for you? Importantly, which one resonates with your sense of national identity, continental pride, and affirmations of decolonization? These are some of the questions that may arise pointedly if the African Transformation Movement has its way. A constitutional amendment that would change our country's name to Azania is but one of the raft of amendments that the party is hoping to force onto the agenda and get the backing of South Africans for, as well as the backing of other political parties. Let's speak to the ATM's parliamentary leader, Vuyolwethu Zungula, who joins me now on the line. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Let's start. There's a raft of constitutional amendments that you are pushing for, but let's start with the one to do with the name change. Why?
The name Thulas is more than just a name. It represents a heritage, an identity, and one would argue even spiritual ties to something. Hence, you find that when most of the African countries that were colonized, immediately when they got their independence, they changed the names they had. Namibia was previously Southwest Africa. And immediately after independence, they changed the name to what they wanted to determine themselves to be, not just a name that was imposed by them, by the colonial powers that be at the time. However, when it comes to South Africa, the only thing that changed is that in 1902, the country was made to be the Union of South Africa when the British and the Boers united. The only thing that changed in 1994 was to change the union from the union to the republic. But when it comes to having a name that truly represents the identity of this part of the continent, that has not happened. You'll recall that even the likes of Robert Sobukwe, Steve Biko, one of the fights that they had during the times of fighting against colonization and oppression, amongst others, was to fight for a change in the name and the identity of the country. Yes, they wanted the one person, one vote. They wanted a free country. They wanted many things, but including what they were fighting for was the fight to change the name of the country.
An immediate problem and a challenge that I've seen that has come up since you raised this debate has been, why is this a priority in the face of all of the problems that we face, problems that require a dedication of resources, significant resources, the issues around unemployment, poverty, inequality, just the dire state of our finances. Why is a name change a priority now?
Because if you look at the problems that we face in the country, the problems that require the police to act, for example, crime and criminality, there's a department that is responsible for that. The problems, for example, in the education sector, there's a department for that. So this is not saying the other issues must not be addressed and we must focus on this one. Equally, also, when it comes to the name, it's very important that we keep this conversation going so that we don't have a case whereby from 1994 up until now, we then get as South Africans or the people of this part of the continent to accept some of these things that we should be fighting for simply because we are saying that there's other problems. Yes, there's other problems, but equally identity and self-determination is critically important for a nation in order for it to determine its future.
And the name Azania, you've also faced quite a bit of debate because it has Greco-Roman origins as well as Arabic origins, the way I understand it. And it's said to be referring to the eastern part of the African continent. Are you married to that name, or are you open to other names being proposed?
The name Azania, it is a name that our forefathers, like the likes of Steve Biko, Robert Sobukwe, understood to what this part of the country, this part of the continent refers to. Hence, even in the grave of Steve Biko, there is a word there, there is a phrase there that says, "One nation, one Azania," because the understanding of Azania means is that it is the land of black people. So that is the understanding of what Azania means. However, we are pushing this name given how even our forefathers were fighting for this particular name, and we've lobbied other organizations who, even in their own utterances, they relate to this name as well.
All right, let's leave it there for now. Unfortunately, we won't have time to get into the other proposals that you have put on the table, but there'll be another occasion for us to have more conversations. That's Vuyolwethu Zungula, the parliamentary leader of the African Transformation Movement, and Musa on standby with your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, controversial businessman Kat Matlala to appear in court and President Ramaphosa to address the nation on Mkhwanazi allegations. Good morning. Embattled businessman Vusimuzi Kat Matlala is expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. He's facing charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder and money laundering after an alleged attempted hit on his former partner. Neria Tlakotsa reports.
Vusi Matlala remains in the Kgosimampuru Cimex prison awaiting trial. It is alleged that his former partner was in a car when unknown hitmen fired at her, her friend and their driver. She escaped unharmed. However, her friend sustained injuries. Matlala has been under the spotlight after KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi alleged that he has strong connections with senior police officials.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will address the nation on Sunday night regarding allegations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Mkhwanazi has accused senior police officials, including Minister Senzo Mchunu, of being corrupt, having links with criminal syndicates and interfering in police operations. The presidency announced the briefing yesterday. Spokesperson Vincent Magwenya.
The president was attending a BRICS summit in Brazil this past Sunday when General Mkhwanazi outlined numerous allegations at a media briefing. The president undertook to attend to this development on his return from Brazil in view of the implications for national security. President Ramaphosa has been seized with this matter in recent days and will, following various consultations, take the nation into his confidence at 7 p.m. this coming Sunday, the 13th of July.
The state in the trial of alleged July 2021 instigator Bonginkosi Kanyile is expected to introduce a new witness. Yesterday, the Durban Regional Court heard testimony from Commander of the Serious Organised Crime Unit, Brigadier Msizi Nyuswa. The court heard that about 274 cases were opened during the 2021 July unrest in KwaZulu-Natal. Meanwhile, members of the MK party, including senior leaders in the province, have been attending the case in support of Kanyile. He's accused of inciting violence and encouraging people to go on a rampage until former President Jacob Zuma was released from prison. At that time, Zuma was arrested for contempt of court after failing to appear before the State Capture Commission. 2 suspected kidnappers have been shot dead and 3 others have been arrested during an operation to rescue a kidnapped businessman in Randfontein on Gauteng's West Rand. The 60-year-old victim from Lenasia was rescued. He was held by the kidnappers for 6 weeks. After the kidnapping in May, his family received a ransom demand of 15 million rand. Police National Spokesperson Ethelenda Mate says the anti-kidnapping task team led the rescue operation after receiving intelligence on the whereabouts of the victim.
Police were following up on intelligence on the whereabouts of a businessman who was kidnapped on the 29th of May this year in Lenasia. Following his kidnapping, the family began receiving a ransom demand of at least 15 million. Police pounced on a house in Randfontein where a shootout ensued. 2 suspects were fatally wounded in the house, while 3 suspects were arrested. The businessman was rescued and has been reunited with his family.
ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile has described the late former Deputy President David Mabuza as the backbone of many communities. Mashatile delivered a keynote address at Mabuza's memorial service held at the Pola Sports Field in Masoi, Mpumalanga yesterday. Mabuza died in a Johannesburg hospital last week at the age of 64. Mashatile urged ANC leaders to continue Mabuza's legacy as the country reflects on his life.
His call for unity of our organization, as I said when I closed my speech today, we unite now or we perish. We want to take on that lesson from him, that our organization can only be renewed, can only be strong if all of us as comrades unite and work together. But more importantly, continue to serve our people diligently as he did.
And finally, US President Donald Trump says he's imposing a 35% tariff on Canadian goods imported to the United States from the 1st of next month. The announcement was made in a letter published on Truth Social. Trump linked the tariff rate to the fentanyl crisis, complaining that instead of working with the United States, Canada had responded with its own tariffs. The BBC's Cathy Silva has the details.
He starts by talking about how there was, of course, tariffs imposed, caused in part by Canada's failure to stop fentanyl drugs pouring into the country, saying then that they were going to be putting a 35% tariff onto Canadian goods and that if Canada retaliated, they would just match them and raise that again by 35%, basically saying there's no way out of this.
Recapping the top story, embattled businessman Vusimuzi Kat Matlala is expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
You are the poster child, the biggest saver we've ever had.
I decided that I would contact Outsurance and let them work out what they could do for me.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, big saving. 2,794 Rand a month.
That's over 33,000 Rand a year.
And it was the easiest switch ever. Real people helping real people get real deals.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. We're building up to Banyana. That's right, they're in peak form as they look for their knockout spot against Tanzania tonight. And we've got bring you the story of Caster Semenya securing a landmark win in Strasbourg. Details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Glenwood Road in and out of Pretoria remains closed just on the western side of the N1 highway. It's closed both ways for roadworks, which have overrun from last night. The closure between Rodricks and Rosemary, full closure there. You'll be able to get across the M1, but you'll be diverting pretty quickly thereafter. Highways around Gauteng, well, there's a breakdown on the N3 North going up to Modderfontein, so that's a little bit slow, probably the slowest of the highways around the province. Track rash recovery underway in Selene, just north of Mpangeni. Quite a backlog both ways to get through. You can get through, but it is very slow. A crash after Umgeni Road on your way down towards Spaghetti Junction this morning. The N2 South a little bit sluggish. And a breakdown Cliffdale area on your way to Durban this morning. So just after Hammersdale, that all gets heavily backed up. 2 lanes currently obstructed there. Higginson Highway out of Chatsworth towards Havenside Drive is slow. And Cape Town in the rain this morning. Bosmansdam Road going off the N7 very slow. All queued up through Summer Greens towards the Montague Drive exit. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 9 minutes after 7 on this Friday. It is great to be in your company. We're into the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. So let me tell you what we're going to cover in this hour. In the next few minutes, I'll be in conversation with poet and artist and academic analyst Pitika Ntuli. We are reflecting on the outcome in at least one of the over 300 cases that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission referred for prosecution for people who were either denied amnesty because they did not comply with the requirements of the 1995 Promotion of National Unity and Reconciliation Act, or did not bother at all to engage with that process, hoping that there would be no consequence. Well, there was no consequence for quite a period of time, but in at least one of those cases, the case of the killing of COSAS activist Caiphus Nyoka, there's been a modicum of justice with the sentencing of former apartheid police officer Johan Marey to 15 years imprisonment. That conversation with Pitika Ntuli coming up in just a moment. Then immediately after that, we raise an interesting debate that has to do with who has the power and control over the South African Police Service, right? The two provisions, in fact, there's a whole section in the Constitution, and by section I don't mean a specific section, but I mean, chapter or, an area, a portion of the Constitution that talks to control over the SAPS. And this has arisen sharply because of what we've seen in the last few days. For instance, the closure of the Political Killings Task Team was something that was a decision taken and communicated by the Minister of Police, who issued a letter out. In terms of who was supposed to take that decision at law, where are the boundaries there? There are 2 sections that we will talk about in the Constitution that have to do with political oversight of the police versus command and control of the police, and it's section 206 and 207 of the Constitution. That conversation coming up in the next few minutes with Tato Muchitele, who will help us to reflect on that particular story. In all of this, I do want to hear from you. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. Please send me your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. Did I swallow that word? Let me say it slowly. 061 410 4107. Let's get the second hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana Banyana want nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's get to this story now. After nearly three decades of frustration for victims of apartheid-era crimes that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommended for prosecution, finally, a measure of vindication for the Commission's processes and a sense of justice, at least for one such family, that of the late Caiphus Nyoka. The High Court in Pretoria has sentenced former apartheid police officer Johan Marey to 15 years imprisonment for his role in Nyoka's 1987 assassination. Having failed to apply for amnesty during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, as was required by the 1995 Promotion of National Unity and Reconciliation Act, Marey was liable for prosecution, but like hundreds of similar cases, his remained unprosecuted until he confessed to a journalist in 2019 and subsequently entered a guilty plea late last year. Let's hear from poet and artist and academic analyst Pitika Ntuli, who joins us now on the line. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Let's start before we get into the nitty-gritties of what has happened or what has not happened. You have a special way that you want to capture this moment of justice for Caiphus Nyoka.
Yes. I thought the poem would be read. Let me read you a poem.
Please go ahead.
Oh. Caiphus Nyoka did not die for symbols. He died because truth threatened power. He died young, a student whose breath still lingered in protest songs. His mother waited for the courtrooms, did not. The country moved on. For 38 years, his killers walked free, aging without confession, protected by a nation too scared to finish what it started. But bones remember what bureaucracy forget. Now we name him. Johan Marey. Now we remember Caiphus not with flowers, but with fire and unfinished questions. Justice delayed is still injustice, but silence undone is a kind of a beginning. Hello?
So just tell me why these words capture this moment for you and what it symbolizes, because it's part of the broader story, isn't it, Pitika, of the unfinished business of the TRC.
Why was the TRC finished? It's finished because said that the investigation was leading to some of the people who may be compromised with their own histories, who were already in government. Again, that puts in a very unfair burden now. Look at the family of Caiphus for 38 years. Many families had been investigating themselves, trying to find their relative bodies to find out, to bring up closer. In other words, there was also spiritual wounds that were created by this. Because the TRC had to choose stability instead of justice. They said if we continue interviewing, then we are going to be destabilized. That's where the whole fallacy lands us.
And let's talk about just reflect for me the effort or lack thereof that has happened over the last while since the recommendations of the TRC. Over 300 cases, as we say, that were referred for prosecution, and there are various political reasons that have been cited at various points, denied at various points by key players who led the various administrations over the last while. What's your sense of the concerted state effort to see follow through on these cases?
No, for me, just said you that it must have been a very deliberate act. The TRC was a very popular thing, even in the world, that we are coming over into truth. But all of a sudden, after 300 cases, everything was, because the more what was being revealed was revealed about how some of the people were conniving with it at the political level, because the apartheid military-industrial complex tentacles everywhere. We know of people right now who are prominent, who are spies. That's what everybody did. So continuing with that then would have brought about that stability. So we sacrifice justice for that stability to protect people.
And let's talk about whether we are starting to see the tide turning. The last update that I saw from the NPA, there may have been another one, but the last one I saw from last year was talking about how they've dedicated 15 prosecutors, 32 SAPS investigators in various divisions that deal specifically with TRC matter. And importantly, they've talked about 137 cases that have been registered for investigation, 21 matters that they're saying are finalized with a decision, and at least 10 of those being on the court roll. Is the tide beginning to turn?
Yeah. I mean, with that, then that's a tide. It begins to turn. But with us, again, is that a brilliant idea such as that, then who is going to manage it? Now, if you get experts to do it, that's another matter. But if you're going to get the people that you deploy, which is exactly where everything of us, dies, then an initiative such as that, which is brilliant, is just going to end up in the air. But let me hope, because I'm just hoping that with the government of national unity and events such as this happening, then it might be a beginning of it, because I believe that with the government of national unity, if we dedicate ourselves very seriously to it, we may get ourselves out of the morass in which we are sinking.
Lastly, Pitikantuli, reflect for me about the soul of the nation and why this is an important project to see to fruition. There will be voices, as you can imagine, that will say, let bygones be bygones. Why is this not an appropriate response to the calls for justice related to these TRC cases?
A true African won't say the bygones are bygones, because as I keep reminding people, whenever anybody dies anywhere, the spirit of the dead has got to be brought home for ceremonies to be there to link with the ancestors to protect the future children. And until a closure has been done as to whether who did what and why it is, only then can the family relax.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time, and thank you for that rendition that you gave us. That's Pitikantuli, a poet, artist, and academic analyst.
WAFCON reigning champions Banyana believe they can deliver 3 points to the people of the South. Meanwhile, the West Africans, Mali, have a big task to wrap up their run in Group C with a win. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. South Africa tackles Mali on Monday, 14 July at 9 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. 30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. The This is more than a match. It's a country moment. Only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy. Saturday, 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So there's a view that the current tensions between the Minister of Police and the KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, as well as the factionalism between various SAPS unit leaders that has been laid bare in the wake of Mkhwanazi's explosive allegations that they are far more than procedural or academic concerns, but cut to the core of the country's efforts to build a functional, accountable and impartial police force within a constitutional democracy. Recent public tensions exemplified by Mkhwanazi's allegations against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu have reignited a long-standing debate. Who truly holds authority within the SAPS and at what cost to the rule of law and public trust? Let's tease out those questions. I'm joined by Tato Mochitele, who is an attorney, notary public at Xuba and Associates Attorneys. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. This is an interesting and fascinating debate, is it not? Because I imagine that it's exemplified by that decision to shut down the political killings task team, and that's been debated at length. What is the law as it stands right now, as laid out by the Constitution? Who has ultimate control of the SAPS?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to the listeners. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. In terms of the Constitution, we look at Section 206 as well as 207. Now, when we go into what has happened over the past week, we can see that, the public has been gripped by very serious allegations that have been made by the Lieutenant General, as you've mentioned. But when we look at Section 206, the Minister of Police is responsible for the Minister of Police is responsible for the oversight, policy and development, and ensuring that he has oversight over SAPS and is able to oversee the functions of the Commissioner. Whereas in terms of Section 207, the National Commissioner exercises the operational control and day-to-day running of SAPS. He reports to the Minister, but and not in terms of the operational directives, but he does the day-to-day running of the policing on the ground. Now, I just want to go specifically to the key provisions. You'll see there, the Minister of the Cabinet is responsible for the policing and must determine the national policy. And as I said, the Commissioner must then ensure that the provincial commissioners carry out their responsibilities effectively. When we look at who has the control, it's different delineations of control. So there is oversight as well as there is then operations. Now, from what we've seen in terms of the allegations that have gone, there is a overreach between control and of operation or oversight and operation.
In fact, say a bit more about that then, Tato, because the immediate question that comes to mind is shutting down a unit, for example, if we take this issue of the political killings task team, is that operational or is that the national policy? Is it a national policy action or decision, or does that become operational, or is it a bit of a grey area?
It is a bit of a grey area, especially because with the allegations that Lieutenant Mkhwanazi has said, that he has made great strides, according to him, in terms of that a task force. So now it begs the question of, if there is very inroads being made towards investigations, why would then the minister decide that, no, this operation should be shut down? Because that now kind of contradicts the function or the object of what they were trying to do in the first place. So there is a grey area that exists there. but in light of what has been said, it creates a real question or suspicion as to why that would be the case, that commission would be shut down, especially as successful as it's been.
Is there a need for better clarity to be laid down in terms of the delineation of these responsibilities to avoid a situation where we come back to this? And why have laws such as the Police Service Act not had that effect of delineating clearly what's a policy issue, what's an operational issue?
So the courts have been occasionally called upon to interpret the institutional tensions, but we have not seen anything happen as of yet. They have not gone into delineating the boundary between the oversight and control. Ultimately, I think because of the ministerial influence, and particularly in light of the allegations, there now is a real call that we must, or legislation must, judiciary must take in order to kind of make sure that there is a real divide between the two, because it's clear now that we continue to have the same issues as a result of the fact that there's no real proper separation of powers between SAPS, between the different divisions of SAPS as well as the minister.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. Fascinating debate. It's important to not only deal with the instantaneous issues as they play themselves out, but to deal with the issues at a systemic level so that we don't keep coming back to these issues from time and again. That's Tato Mochitele, who is an attorney and notary public at Kluba and Associates Attorneys.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's kick it off with Banyana, who begin their WAFCON title defense. They had a dominant 2-0 win over Ghana. Tonight at 9 p.m., they face Tanzania in Oujda, Morocco. Here's Coach Desiree Ellis looking ahead.
We've played Tanzania before, but that game's out of the window. It means nothing. So we also know that they need to win to stay in the competition. So we need to make sure that, again, we don't concede, because we are going to create opportunities and then take those opportunities, and we need to be a lot more in the attacking third when we are there to take the chances.
Algeria and Tunisia played to a goalless draw in their Women's Africa Cup of Nations Group B clash. Tunisia remains in contention ahead of their final group match against Botswana. Algeria, they'll next face Nigeria in a showdown. That's on Sunday. Now, the Chelsea coach, Enzo Maresca, elaborating how he plans to use his recently acquired forward, João Pedro.
Read that story slowly. What's Enzo Maresca saying? Say it again. Yeah, I want to hear.
Oh, wow. I'm on repeat now, guys, just because someone's team is playing. Can you believe it? Chelsea, can they go all the way, Thulas?
Of course we can. What are you talking about? What kind of a question is that even?
Yes, at the FIFA club work. Careful, Thulas, careful. I heard Chelsea's only one win when no one's watching. But nevertheless, let's go to Enzo Maresca.
When you play every 3 days, in this competition, you need a big squad. You need all the players, but also they have to be ready. And they show that they are a good player, but also we can count on them, how professional they are. And this is for sure something that we need also for the future.
And tennis action from Wimbledon. Amanda Anisimova earned her career first Grand Slam. She upseeded the top seed Aryna Sabalenka, and Iga Swiatek secured her first ever Wimbledon final appearance. She had a 6-2, 6-love win over Belinda Bencic. And finally, cycling, Ireland's Ben Healy producing a stunning solo break to win Stage 6 of the Tour de France, while Matthew van der Poel regained the race leader's yellow jersey. We'll cycle back top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa will hold an inaugural meeting with members of the Eminent Persons Group at the Union Buildings this morning. The group was appointed by the President as ambassadors for South Africa's much-anticipated national dialogue. Embattled businessman Vuzimuzi Kat Matlala is expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. And Johannesburg residents have expressed outrage after Mayor Dada Morero announced repairing the city's potholes could cost approximately 700 million rand. The staggering figure has ignited debate over budget priorities and years of infrastructure neglect. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, crash in on Joburg's Mike 1. It is just by 11th Avenue, so if you're moving north from Braamfontein up through Parktown towards Houghton, it's quite heavy. Must be big enough because it's having an impact on the southbound side as well, coming from Melrose down into that Houghton Estate area. Very busy both ways, and Houghton Drive is queuing up through the wilds to get into that queue on the Mike 1 north. The breakdown, N3 north at Modderfontein Road, so delays coming through from Hell delays, and a crash scene on Jan Smuts Avenue near Hume. So if you're driving towards Rosebank, coming down from Hyde Park, that's all quite heavily backed up in that area this morning. Roadworks on Pretoria's Linwood Road. The road was closed earlier this morning between Rodricks and Rosemary. It's sort of a little bit changeable, part reopening, part reclosing. Just factor in some queues around that sort of area through towards sort of the university, if you like, today. Northern parts of KZN, truck crash recovery at Nseleni, just north of Mpangeni. The M2 stays heavy into that scene. Breakdown, a jackknife truck on the N3 at Cliffdale on your way to Durban, so that's a big queue from Hammersdale side today. And Cape Town, a taxi overturning N2 out of town on the run to Hospital Ben. Just watch for traffic slowing at that particular scene. And wet weather conditions across the Cape Town area just mean you need road safety top of mind, please. Wet all day today, I think. M7 out of Mitchell's Plain, that's queuing up to Danafontein Road. And Govan and Becky, try and avoid it between Cape Flats and Khayelitsha. There's roadworks which have been there forever around Danafontein, and some burning tyre protests at the bottom of Nyanga this morning as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
So one thing we can confirm is that a transaction of significance took place yesterday that boosted the donut economy.
I played my part.
The donut economy was boosted somewhat. So thank you, Ntauling, for the donuts this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Tell me about Renergen.
Yes.
You're saying that they are one step closer to delisting.
That's right, Silas. And this comes after Renergen shareholders approved a 1.9 billion rands share swap deal with ASP Isotopes, a NASDAQ-listed company. Now, ASP made a bid for Renergen about a month ago, and 99% of shareholders in an AGM meeting yesterday voted in support of the acquisition. The strategic merger aims to create a global leader in critical materials production by leveraging Renergen's helium reserves and ASP Isotopes' advanced enrichment capabilities. The merger also positions the combined entity as a secure, vertically integrated source of helium and enriched isotopes, addressing growing global demand in industries like the semiconductors industry, medical, and energy. The combined entity expects to generate over 3.2 billion rands in earnings by 2030, driven by expanded sales networks and strong positioning in high-growth industries.
Now, this one, Dowling, is for my high school science teacher, Mr. Shongwe. I didn't Google this, so here's a wild guess. The palladium.
Yes.
All I'm thinking about is the periodic table, and is it part of the platinum group metals?
Yes,
is it?
It's part of the PGMs.
Look at me, 1 for 1 this morning. Tell me about Southern Palladium and them holding on to cash, cutting capital expenditure.
Yes. So they're optimistic about the flagship project based in Limpopo, Bengwenyama mine. This comes after a recent pre-visibility study reduced the project's capital requirements. The company, led by former Minerals Council CEO Roger Baxter, announced that a staged development approach would cut the project's peak funding needs by $173 million, or 38%, to $279 million. This reduction improves the mine's funding attractiveness, making it more appealing to investors amid the current market conditions. The company hopes to eliminate a further $138 million in funding by trucking its mined ore to an existing third-party processing plant and has commenced discussions with various third parties to assess potential arrangements. Now, Southern Palladium recently raised about $5.6 million through a share placement, with one of its largest shareholders investing an additional $3 million. So it seems like they're cash flush as they continue with operations.
How are the markets looking at this hour, Dowling?
Kicking things off in Asia, markets mixed. This amid fresh concerns over U.S. tariffs after President Trump announced steep duties against Canada, that is, while Chinese markets outperformed on bets of more stimulus measures. The Japanese Nikkei up 0.03%, while Hong Kong Hang Seng is up 1.8%. Over in the U.S., surprisingly, futures are in the red. Investors on that front, of course, assessing Trump's latest move. Coming back home, commodity prices continue to boost the JSE, with the Resources 10 complex up 0.69% in yesterday's session, and that boosting the all-share gaining 0.14%. The rand, in the meantime, making slight gains this morning. It's at 17.75 to the greenback.
Did you have a donut, by the way?
I did.
Okay, good thing, because there's a certain sports anchor on this show who's known for expropriation without compensation.
I hope she can hear this.
Darling Lichela will be back with one more update for you just after 8:30.
My name is Amogelang Motau, Banyana midfielder. What do I love about SABC Sport? You guys have managed to capture women's football stories, because I think documentation is important.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, I've got to acknowledge some messages. They've been coming in quite constantly. And part of what we've been trying to do is, escalate them internally within the SABC. But I do feel it's important for me to just acknowledge so that you don't think we're not hearing you, especially if you are in the area of Mbombela and areas around White River. We've heard the constant cries over the last few weeks about the reception and signal. Someone just says here, SAFM 106.1 FM is not clear in White River. We assure you that this is something we've taken note of. It's not the first message. I think I've been getting it almost daily. So it is noted, and we've escalated it internally. So just to let you know that we are hearing you. We're not completely ignoring what you are saying about that situation. So hopefully it can be attended to soon. Let's speak to Crispin in Durban. Good morning to you, Crispin.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. I need to tell you what happened to me yesterday. I went to Addington Hospital, to a department there. On my way in, there are these people, unidentified, who are demanding from people that they show their IDs. So obviously, I'm not going to show anyone my ID. Why would I? But there were other people who were meekly complying. And it was clear that this was, and they made it clear, we aimed at keeping foreigners out of this hospital. So I took them on. I told them that this is state apartheid thinking. And they were very agitated with me. And I said, who gave you the right to do it? Oh, it's Section 17 of the Constitution. That's a lie, as I pointed out. That Section 17 is about the right to peaceful protest. In fact, Section 25 actually states that no one may be denied access to health services. So, anyway, one worse thing is that when I went through and I asked the security guards about this, that they actually said, oh, yes, they're doing their job there, you see, and you must show your ID. And the one security guard says to me, foreigners are not allowed in here. So, fortunately, I was able to get to the hospital manager on that score, and he said, yes, that's absolutely out of line, I'll deal with it. I went to the SAPS then, the local SAPS, and I met some poor, inept police officer who said, oh, no, they've been doing it, but, it's politics. Wow. So he's telling me that where there are political issues, the law does not apply, which is complete and absolute nonsense. And in fact, the whole controversy about Mkhwanazi is about exactly the fact that law enforcement is being interfered with for reasons of politics and politicians. So I want to make a point about the healthcare services. I understand that people get frustrated when there are large numbers of people, maybe at times, and people start taking out issues with one group or another. But the reason there's a lack of resources, we know how many millions, billions have been siphoned out of the health services by corrupt people in the elite. We know that. But none of this action being taken by this shadowy group is directed at the source of the problem, which is there, in fact. I mean, secondly, I would want to say that this doesn't only affect foreigners because there were people around. I sort of picked up that there were people who were not confident and obnoxious like me, who is there and holding back from going in because they were scared of being confronted by these people. So this is a blatant denial of people's right to health care.
No, Crispin, thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience. And it's a situation that's been developing in many parts of the country. I think they're calling themselves the March and March, as well as groups like Operation Dudula that have been undertaking this. They are, as far as I understand, trying to raise sharply the strain on health resources that is brought on by uncontrolled illegal migration. And that's been at the heart of their grievances. But of course, it's been pointed out that it's not up to them to then enforce and block people from accessing healthcare. And as Crispin was citing that constitutional clause there, Section 27, that talks about that says everyone has the right to have access to healthcare services, including reproductive health care, and says no one may be refused emergency medical treatment. It's something we debated at length with Zandile Dabula a few days ago of Operation Dudula. Again, it comes down to what's at the heart of the people's grievances. Is it being addressed? But also at the same time, is the state showing up so that, people are not left in a situation where there's what they call in law self-help. Self-help is basically, we deteriorate. If I feel my rights are being violated, I do what I think I need to do to be able to vindicate my rights in my own way. That's just a descent into chaos. Thank you for sharing that, though, Crispin, that experience that you had. Chris in Pietermaritzburg, good morning. Long time, my friend.
A long time. You have touched an issue that we seem to have moja for 30 years, the whole toxic relationship between politics and public administration. I think it's one thing that really needs to be resolved once and for all. But people, I think we really have a crisis of leadership. The people that get appointed into leadership position always think that it's for themselves and to service their egos. I will tell you one of the stories. It is alleged that one politician, when was appointed, told their staff that in the 5 years, ensure that you pay off your bond and your cars, so that by the time we leave here, and if you do not find work, at least your bond and your cars are paid off. So again, this is an entrenched culture and toxicity of leaders in their own character as persons that needs to be dealt with. Obviously, not ignoring that we need to clearly delineate between public administration and politics. The EU has a report on how they did it, and we don't need a commission. We can just learn from them and take that report and implement in South Africa.
Yeah, no, that's a long-standing debate, Chris. Is it your sense that all the prescripts of law that have been put in place, the Public Service Act and the likes, have not had the existence of the Public Service Commission and the likes have not had that effect of clearly drawing the lines, for instance, between political staff whose tenure is attached to the tenure of the political office holder versus administrative staff, people who are there on merit?
Yes, it cannot, because it serves a bigger political agenda of state control. Remember, that's what the politics of South Africa has been about. That majoritarian simply means we should control the state and therefore resources of the state. That's why all these fights are about. That's the bigger problem that you are facing. That's what our politics have been reduced to. That's the bigger problem.
Chris, thank you. That's Chris in Pietermaritzburg. Let me go to this one. Max and Velkom, you want to talk to me about Ntauleng Lechela?
Yeah, Thulas, earlier this week, you used your legal skills and cornered Ntauleng to come into the studio.
I don't know if those were legal skills. I bullied her.
She agreed today, and the queen that she is, she even brought the donors.
Absolutely.
But you, Thulas, you disappointed me because I didn't see any welcoming party, the emperors, the guard of honor. The queen is in the studio for the first time. And what you do is just enjoy the donuts.
Hey, Max, you are exposing me.
You disappointed me.
I have no comeback. I will do better.
You got the best show in the world.
I will do better. Thank you for that, Max. That's Max and Velkom. Let me go back to... it's kind of hard to go back to the serious matters now because Max really properly called me out. Let's go to Eddie in Cape Town. Good morning, Eddie. You want to talk about Kat Matlala?
Yes, good morning, Thulas, and good morning to the listeners. Thulas, this issue of this guy is, I think it has got deeper links or deeper roots within the ANC. Mm-hmm. Why I'm saying this? We only had elections in May last year. So now this new administration is not long, man. So, but now the connections that this minister is being accused of, it's as if maybe the minister has been a minister of police for a long time,
Yeah.
Because this requires a long time thing, man, to know this guy called Brown Makoti, whatever. And it's not a small time thing. That means it's a system that has been ongoing. Even not only this with one minister. I think this minister is just inheriting, something which has been there already. Yeah. So I think the problem is with the ANC itself. The ANC itself is harboring, and the ANC itself is the house of corruption, and it has got friends with these criminals. That's the ANC itself. Yeah. So whoever is appointed, perhaps, I don't know, maybe it might be that the DA, they cannot be corrupted. I don't know. But we don't know because these politicians cannot be trusted as well.
Eddie, thank you for that. In fact, let me go straight to Thabo in Kronstadt because Thabo is also on a similar vein. Good morning to you, Thabo.
Yes, Thulas, really, as now the previous speaker now has mentioned the situation now. Can you think when Senzo Mtunu now, the police commissioner, he's just in front of us all, he say now the crook, that Kat Matala, who's now in jail, and they shot the wrong person to those ladies now to come back. I want to clarify that Sunday, President Ramaphosa, he must suspend that guy and find Masemola. He must take the baton up, We cannot be treated like this, Thulas. That is what I wanted to say.
All right.
We are very sick and tired with what is happening. The coil from down upwards is a lot of crooks now. There is nothing we trust.
Thabo, thank you for that. So that gives me a good opportunity, Thabo, to just make this point. Do yourself a favor. Go back and watch the portfolio committee meeting, a portfolio committee on police from the 5th of March this year. Look it up and watch it in its entirety. Towards the end there, General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi comes up, and it's really towards the end. It's really like the last 30 minutes or something of a 4-hour sitting. Just listen to it. The point I'm making is the importance of an active citizenry engaged and demanding accountability. Because some of what General Mkhwanazi said on Sunday last week, he actually said at that meeting, of course it didn't go to the levels of detail such as sharing screenshots of proof of payment for gala dinners and the likes, but he did allude to the relationship between this Mokgotsi, Brown Mokgotsi, and the minister. And the minister denied that relationship and said, this person is not my associate. But nothing came of it until you South Africans, having heard what you heard, decided that actually we want more to be said about this. We want this to be thoroughly investigated. So if you can make time and watch that sitting, it put things into a bit of context for me.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good news first up. It's a very easy run through Midrand. Today, if you're leaving Pretoria en route to Joburg, the highway is open and flowing quite nicely. It is a Friday. It is school holidays on top of that as well, so perhaps not unusual. Crash on the N3 going north at Linksfield Road. Delays coming through from Heldenace. Earlier crash on the Mike 1 around 11th Avenue. Just slowing traffic. Looks like it's being cleared, but it is slightly slower than you might be expecting. And a crash locally on Jan Smuts Avenue at Hume Road, moving between Hyde Park and Rosebank through Dunkeld. Quite heavy. Changeable roadworks on Linwood Road this morning. At this stage, Linwood Road going into Pretoria, approaching Brooklyn Road, looks closed at that section now, so just expect some diversions there. The jackknife truck at Cliffdale has been cleared. The backlog coming through from Hammersdale should start to move off. If you're coming into Durban from Verulam this morning, crash on the R102 before the Phoenix Highway, before the sort of trade centre, Phoenix Highway Junction. So that's heavy from Verulam down through Palmview and on your way in towards that Phoenix area. Also, truck crash recovery still underway. Quite a mess north of Mpangeni at Nseleni. Just expect some delays there. And Cape Town, a crash on the N2 out of town. It's Nelson Mandela Boulevard at Ridderbulum. That's causing delays towards Hospital Bend, but the onlooking factor causing delays getting through Hospital Bend, making your way onto Nelson Mandela Boulevard. And protest action this morning, Govan and Becky at the bottom of Nyanga near Steve Biko. That's on top of the roadworks. Just trying to avoid that run on Govan and Becky this morning between Khayelitsha and Cape Flats. There's some disruption to traffic and the collision. Hayterveld area going into Mannenberg. It's on Danafontein, slowing traffic approaching Klipfontein Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
My name is Renelle Tamlin Donnelly, and I play striker. What do my teammates call me instead of my actual name? As you know, guys, because I wear weave, so they call me Slay Queen. Guys, I slay it, so yeah, my favorite hairstyle is a weave. Have I already planned my secret celebration for when I score my first goal at WAFCON? I have, but secret is the code, so tune into SABC Sport to catch my secret celebration in the WAFCON tournament.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
5 minutes to 8. British American Tobacco BAT is sounding the alarm over the explosive growth of the country's illicit cigarette market, calling on authorities to take urgent action, including placing customs officials inside cigarette factories. Backed by a new Ipsos study, BAT claims that the illegal trade now costs the country over 100 million rand per day in lost tax revenue. As the South African Revenue Service races to meet its tax collection targets, the tobacco giant argues that curbing this underground economy could offer a decisive fiscal solution without increasing the tax burden on compliant citizens and businesses. So let's speak to British American Tobacco SABAT Area Head of Corporate and Regulatory Affairs, Johnny Moloto. Good morning to you, Johnny, and thank you for your time. So I saw the figures that came through from that Ipsos study that you commissioned, and you found that nearly 80% of South African retailers are selling cigarettes below the legal tax threshold. It sounds to me like this is a losing battle.
Thank you very much. Morning to Thulasizwe and to your listeners. Yes, I mean, this is the seventh wave of these surveys or research studies that we commission with Ipsos to allow us, to monitor the trend over a period of time with the intent of shining a light of this problem and also helping the authorities with actionable information. But like you say, when it's almost hitting 80%, this seems like, a very unsuccessful struggle, I would say, because of just like sheer will of political will to deal with this. And just for context, the minimum threshold that you cannot sell below because you have to pay the tax is 26 Rand 22 cents. That is mandatory. We all have to pay that tax, right? So if you sell anything below that, how could you have still sold from profitably and still run a sustainable business?
Is there a sense, Johnny, that in between the surveys and the various findings, there's actually some kind of movement that SARS is beefing up its ability to do all of this work? For example, this year they were allocated a bit more money to strengthen their revenue collection efforts. But does it appear to you that some of those resources are being directed specifically towards this problem?
It's early days to tell. What we do know is that the minister, in his third attempt at the budget, which was eventually successful, he specifically mentioned that, more resources have been allocated to deal with the illicit tobacco problem. But as we know, there were some serious delays in passing the budget, and it's only now most departments, I believe the minister himself presented the Treasury budget last week. Or early this week, I can't recall. But it stands to be seen, it's July now, whether those resources will indeed be dedicated towards fighting this scourge.
Those of us who don't consume the product, who don't smoke, it may be easy that some of us may say, well, that's an industry problem. You guys deal with it. Why is it a problem for everyone, all South Africans?
Yes, thank you very much for asking that question. I think it is a very pertinent one. If we look at how much the fiscus is losing, it's like a gap of about 28 billion that is sitting on the table that they're not collecting, right? But yet we know the fiscus has a gap of 20 billion that somehow the commissioner has to find it in this financial year. And we know that we narrowly missed a VAT increase, right? And by the way, whether you're not a consumer or not a consumer of our product, that VAT increase was applicable to all of us as citizens. Right, so there is an opportunity to avert a similar crisis in the future by closing that gap, collect this 28 billion that is lying on the table and is only being enjoyed by criminals.
And if some of the players in the industry are known and they've been named quite a number of times, how do we account for a lack of action against known players that have long been suspected of engaging in these practices?
And that is a question we've been asking ourselves for the longest of time, because like I say, when we commission these studies, we don't keep them under, somewhere in a shelf in our offices. We publish these with the intent that first it shines a spotlight on who the usual suspects are, and there are usual suspects. In the seven ways we have conducted, the same old suspects crop up, your gold leads and whatever in successive reports. And SARS are the ones that license these guys. And we're saying that in the same way you can actually issue them licenses, you need to be able to take these licenses away if they breach the conditions of the licenses. So we don't know really to us that why are they not acting in this regard when they actually know who they are. If they don't believe our information, go validate it. Take what you see and go validate it yourself.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for sharing those insights with us this morning. That's Johnny Muloto, who is BATSA Area Head of Corporate and Regulatory Affairs for South Africa. Brings us to 8 a.m. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Ramaphosa to meet National Dialogue Eminent Persons Group and ICC alleged crimes against humanity taking place in Sudan's Darfur region. Good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa will hold an inaugural meeting with members of the Eminent Persons Group at the Union Buildings this morning. The president is expected to outline the expectations and mandate of the group. The members were appointed as ambassadors for South Africa's much-anticipated national dialogue. The Eminent Persons Group is made up of leading figures in society to advance social cohesion and nation building. Sibatle Mota reports.
The presidency says in a statement that this morning's meeting with the Eminent Persons Group will be an opportunity for President Ramaphosa to outline the expectations and mandates of the chosen ambassadors. The group is also expected to share its views on the role and organization of the National Dialogue. The ambassadors will thereafter receive a briefing from the National Dialogue Preparatory Task Team on the progress towards the first National Convention, which is scheduled to take place next month.
A man arrested in connection with the alleged murder of his wife is this morning expected to make his first appearance at the Masisi Periodical Court outside Musina in Limpopo. Police say the suspect allegedly stabbed his wife at a tavern after accusing her of infidelity. Police say the suspect will face a murder charge. Embattled businessman Thulasizwe Simelane is expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. He's facing charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder and money laundering after an alleged attempted hit on his former partner. Neria Tlakotsa reports.
Simelane remains in the Kgosimampuru Cimex prison awaiting trial. It is alleged that his former partner was in a car when unknown hitmen fired at her, her friend and their driver. She escaped unharmed. However, her friend sustained injuries. Matlala has been under the spotlight after KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi alleged that he had strong connections with senior police officials.
Johannesburg residents have expressed outrage after Mayor Dada Morero announced that repairing the city's potholes could cost approximately 700 million rand. The staggering figure, announced during the launch of the city's War on Potholes campaign in Hyde Park, has ignited debate over budget priorities and years of infrastructure neglect. DA Shadow Member of the Mayoral Committee of Transport, Sean Krish.
It's actually quite laughable because every time the mayor mentions the number or the MNC of Transport, Kenny Kanene, it's victory at Damsak. You know, we've got to a point in the city where we're actually suffering from probably 9 years of maintenance backlog. 2016, the JRA or Johannesburg Roads Agency had a capex budget of literally 1.5 billion rand. We've seen a decline over the last 9 years to roughly now 900 million rand per annum. So for 9 years, the city's been running at almost 60% of budget.
The South African Weather Services has issued a Level 2 warning for damaging waves along parts of the Western Cape and Namakwa coastline for this weekend. A cold front is also expected to bring large southwesterly waves of up to 5.5 meters, with strong winds of up to 60 kilometers per hour between Wonderklip Bay and Plattenburg Bay. Residents and visitors are advised to exercise caution, avoid risky coastal areas and to stay up to date with official weather alerts. And finally, the Deputy Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court says there are reasonable grounds to believe war crimes are being committed in Sudan's Darfur region. Nazat Shamim Khan told the UN Security Council that rape and sexual violence had been weaponized and people deprived of food and water.
We come together at a time when it can seem difficult to find appropriate words to describe the depth of suffering in Darfur. The humanitarian position has reached an intolerable state. We have reasonable grounds to believe that war crimes and crimes against humanity have been and are continuing to be committed in Darfur.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa will hold an inaugural meeting with members of the Eminent Persons Group at the Union Buildings this morning, where the president is expected to outline the expectations and mandate of the group. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Have you heard the latest news? Vincent, a 40-year-old man, wanted to save on his car insurance premium, so he got a quote from Outsurance. Vincent now saves a massive 990 Rand a month on his 2022 Ford Ranger 2.2 litre. Get a quote today. See how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, we look ahead to Chelsea taking on Paris Saint-Germain Club World Cup final. And we also got the Springboks. South Africa's fullback Willie Leroux making an impressive 100 test caps. And we'll get the details just before 8:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The N3 between Germiston and Edenvale under pressure on that run up through Bedford View and Vaigalulis. It's a crash just after Linksfield Road towards Modderfontein Road, backing that traffic up. The Mike 1 crash around 11th Avenue. Looks like it's pretty much moved from the carriageway. Traffic slow rather than heavy as it was before. The R21 queuing into the roadworks as you approach the Bupsfontein exit on your way towards the airport area this morning. Just north of Mpangeni, the M2 at Nsileni. Truck crash recovery still underway. There is a bit of a wait to get through there. The truck that was stuck jackknifing at Cliffdale is just being cleared. A backlog to move through. That's towards Durban. And a crash on the R102 coming from Verulam towards Durban just before the Phoenix Highway. That's quite a heavy delay. Verulam down through Palmview and on your way into the Phoenix area this morning. And Cape Town, a crash on Nelson Mandela Boulevard heading out of town just before Hospital Bend. That's backlogging traffic towards the Bend, but also having an impact inbound side from Hospital Bend down towards Rillablom Street due to the onlooking factor. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8 on this Friday. Welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Part of what I like is just the way that we challenge each other every morning, right? And I've said this time and time again. Someone says here on the WhatsApp line, why are you giving tobacco companies so much airtime? They can fend for themselves. So I was preparing and, thinking about how do I respond to this person. Then I saw that someone else actually has a point to make about this, and it's Jen in Cape Town. And I think it adequately responds to that question. Jen in Cape Town says, also at the core of the illegal cigarette business is police being bribed. This needs to be investigated. Why aren't the police doing their work? And I think that adequately answers that question, right? Do you, when there's a crime being committed, and it's suggested that this crime is organized crime, sophisticated crime, and you are seeing the people who are perpetrating the crime getting away with it, and not only just getting away with it, but thriving, aren't you at the very least curious as to how is it that they're able to get away with it? Does it matter who the victim is of the crime, or is it crime as a societal matter? And I posed the question to Johnny Moloto about the overall impact of the uncollected taxes. If that is none of your concern, I don't know what to say. I honestly don't know what to say, where people who should be paying taxes, it's not, people who should be paying taxes. It's not even about an affordability issue for those who smoke. No, it's about taxes should be paid for these cigarettes, and they are not. And people keep getting away with it. That, for me, in an ecosystem where we are trying to fight crime, is a concern to me as a citizen. And I don't even smoke. But it's a concern for me. Welcome to it. The third hour, I'll take more of your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes. The number to dial, 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Let's get on with it.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 200 gram Baker's Red Label cream biscuits. Buy any two for 38 Rand. Plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 400 gram Black Cat peanut butter, excluding no sugar, for 34.99 and save 15 Rand. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 21 July 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The four-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let me go straight to Vincent in Midrand. Good morning to you, Vincent. Trumpisto on your mind this morning.
Good morning, Thulas. Good morning. I listen to you every morning so religiously.
Appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, but I've been advised to be quick, so let me be brief.
Sure, go ahead.
I want to talk about Donald Trump, who never ceases to amaze me every day. He's now chasing the Nobel Peace Prize, and quest to do that. He seems to be making peace in some countries while fueling war in other countries at the same time. And that reminds me of William Shakespeare in Julius Caesar when Brutus says, "Set death in one eye and honor in the other, and I will look at them both indifferently." Wow. So Donald Trump is playing double standards in the worst of forms. Yeah, so I just felt I must highlight that the Nobel Peace Prize, as I conclude, it's not meant for people that run around chasing it. It's meant for people that make honest efforts and think not to win anything. But then the committee will recognize them. Not for people who go out chasing it, because if that were the case, all will be chasing after it. And the committee will have problems as to who to select there.
No, thank you for that, Vincent. I think I've said my piece about that. That as it's been said, peace is not the absence of war. To what extent do your actions overall, taken, all together, promote peace? Because peace in many ways is linked to justice, and some of the actions that you are taking now, how are they impacting the stability, overall stability in the world? But then having said that, I must say, Vincent, that the Nobel Committee has been known to sometimes make decisions on this Peace Prize that shock and surprise many, right? In some instances, it's been said that they sometimes decide because they want to encourage particular players to actually go in a particular direction that will lead to peace, and therefore they will award and give an award that is controversial. So let's see. Who knows? Maybe Donald Trump may be up for it. Is it Cindy in KwaZulu-Natal, or is it Cindy? You see, now I'm a bit confused. How do I... Cindy. Okay. Good morning, Cindy. I thought
Good
it was
morning. How are
Cindy,
you?
the surname.
No,
Apologies
it's
for that.
Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. Please go ahead.
Cindy, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
I am good. I'm calling from KwaZulu-Natal.
Uh-huh.
I work in the Department of Education, which is facing a lot of challenges because of cadre deployment. I hope you know that. If you can refer back to Professor Volman's report that was swept under the carpet, that was not addressed. In fact, the Department of Education faces numerous challenges that remain unaddressed. Unfortunately, union influence has become a dominant force impacting the day-to-day operations of schools. The process of filling promotional posts is often controlled by certain unions, leading to bullying, victimization of teachers who are not affiliated to these unions, even prior to the process. Some teachers are elected by their friends so that they can serve in the governing body to fulfill their process. I've seen instances where principals are ousted due to allegations that are often unfounded, simply to create positions for union members. Once these individuals are appointed to us, they frequently focus on financial management. They put their fingers in that cookie jar, leaving teaching and learning to suffer.
Wow.
Bullying, chaos, you know it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the situation not only undermines the quality of education, but also creates a toxic environment
Wow.
for
Cindy.
educators and students.
Yeah. Cindy, thank you for that. I listened attentively because I believe you're giving us, these are lived experiences from the coal face of an issue that we've heard from time to time. But I mean,
it is so sad to see your colleagues being bullied because they belong to a particular union, not the other union.
Wow.
Others are enjoying the privileges.
All right. Cindy, thank you for that. That's Cindy in KZN. I wonder what the experience is of other educators, other teachers in KwaZulu-Natal as well as other parts of the country of that phenomenon that Cindy was describing now in vivid detail. Let me go to Sandile, also in KZN. Good morning. You want to talk about Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Hi, good morning, Thulas.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm a member in good standing of the ANC. But the problem now is that we found it so difficult. I'm imagining how we're going to campaign under these circumstances. And it's very painful to hear that because officials, our leaders in the movement and political spaces at large have been assassinated for whatever reason. But we have a situation where the dockets are just disregarded with no reason, and it's very painful to the families that lost their loved ones. Now, how do we go out and campaign for the ANC? I think the only thing now that can happen is the reset of the ANC, whereby the president takes it the responsibility on Sunday to announce the resignation, so that everybody can follow, and then we have new cadres coming in, so that we can, because we're crying our beloved movement. We love the ANC. But,
so on Sunday announces his resignation. Is that what you're calling for?
He must announce his resignation on Sunday.
Wow. And then everyone will follow.
Everyone will follow suit, because Nkunu is not the only one.
Yeah.
And with the president at the helm of everything that is happening, the previous caller just said now the education KZN is in shambles. So how do we move forward? How do we go out and campaign for the ANC in the local government?
All right.
So maybe so that they can serve the ANC, they need to just leave it in the new
and you said you're a member in good standing of the ANC.
That's correct.
All right. Sandile, thank you for your reflections. That's Sandile there in KZN, reflecting on what it will take for the ANC to really hit the refresh button. He says the president should on Sunday announce his own resignation. Everyone else follows suit, because it will become difficult to campaign for the ANC under these circumstances. We'll make time and take more of your calls and WhatsApp voice notes a bit later on.
My name is Renal Tamlin Donnelly, and I play striker. What do my teammates call me instead of my actual name? As you know, guys, because I wear a weave, so they call me Slay Queen. Guys, I slay it, so yeah, my favorite hairstyle is a weave. Have I already planned my secret celebration for when I score my first goal at RAFCON? I have, but secret is the code, so tune into SABC Sport to catch my secret celebration in the RAFCON tournament.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Let's get to that story then. In a landmark ruling, the European Court on Human Rights, its Grand Chamber, has found that Caster Semenya's right to a fair hearing was violated by the Swiss Federal Supreme Court in her 2020 appeal against World Athletics' regulations. These rules barred her from competing unless she medically reduced her naturally high testosterone levels due to her differences in sexual development, DSD. While the ruling does not overturn the regulations themselves, it opens a critical door in Semenya's long legal and human rights battle and underscores growing scrutiny of how sports governance intersects with athletes' fundamental rights. Let's speak to Advocate Tsepo Madlingozi, a commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission, who have been an integral support structure in this battle that Caster Semenya has waged. Good morning and thank you for your time this morning, Advocate. As I say that, we've not hit the substantive matter of the validity or otherwise of these regulations made by World Athletics and how they impact on rights. But it's a significant victory, isn't it?
It is a significant victory. Good morning, Thulasizwe and your listeners. Just to clear up, I'm not an advocate, I'm a commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission.
Apologies for that.
It is significant for a number of reasons. Number one, it affirms the universal principles of human rights that, one can claim rights anywhere they find themselves that they are violated. But number two, as you correctly said, it underscores that athletes are human beings and they cannot be forced to contract out of their fundamental rights, and therefore that sports bodies are obliged to, set out their regulations not in contravention with human rights. But lastly, as you correctly said, it opens the door for Caster Semenya to go back to Switzerland to have her rights vindicated.
So someone listening to this will say she has since retired from the sport. Why does it remain an important battle, the way you understand it? Why does it remain an important battle for her to continue to wage?
Number one, she has really stood up not just for herself, but for the rights of gender diverse individuals who have what they call a naturally occurring testosterone. And therefore, that ruling is important to say, such persons who biologically are born with a certain condition should not be forced, to undertake certain things. So, as you say, the ruling does not undo that, but it certainly opens the door for that to be contested. Secondly, this fight went beyond Caster. It was a battle between a very powerful institution, the World Athletics Body, Switzerland, the UK, and other states that supported Switzerland in this regard. And therefore, it underscores that in this global apartheid between the global north and the global south, she can take on the might of these powerful bodies and win. But lastly, for herself, as I said, the ruling says that she didn't get a fair hearing in Switzerland. Therefore, she has the ability to go back to Switzerland to vindicate her rights and certainly to ask for compensation for her losses.
And it's significant, is it not, that this was a ruling of a European court against one of the states that are signatory to that particular convention on human rights in Europe?
is very, very significant. It was not a ruling against the World Athletics Sports Body. It's a ruling by the highest court in Europe against one of the most powerful states in Europe, Switzerland. Therefore, it's very significant that the highest court in Europe on matters of human rights found against Switzerland on behalf of a South African athlete. You know, Thulasizwe, the lesson for us is very clear that human rights are universal. And it's a lesson for us in South Africa that we should really be careful when we say certain rights should not apply for certain people just because, but not for this country. Human rights are universally applicable.
Lastly, as and when we get to talking about the substantive issues around these regulations that target female athletes with naturally high testosterone levels, why is it critical that that issue is handled in a manner that advances human rights? Should it be human rights over and above these concerns that bodies like World Athletics have voiced, for example, about the competitive advantage of athletes with naturally high testosterone levels?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. First of all, it has not been proven that there is an unfair advantage. That case scientifically has not been made. Number two, it has not been scientifically proven that the medication that they are forcing these athletes to take really does work. So scientifically, it is very contested. In fact, the World Athletics has not made a case that this medication will do what it says it will do. Number three, the side effects of this medication has also not proven. You'll remember that Kasta did take this medication at some point, and as she said, quote unquote, she went through hell. The side effects were really harrowing. So in this case, we are dealing with persons who are not cheating, who are not taking medically enhancing substances, but who are born in a certain way, and we are forcing them to take medication that is not scientifically proven. That conflicts with human rights.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time and your insights. That's Tsepo Madlingozi, a commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
Talking
in fact,
what?
In fact, as you start, I'm going to. Don't mind me. I'm going to reveal my shirt now.
Dun, 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 dun. Take it off, Thulas.
Go ahead.
There we go. Anyway, let's go to Thulas's favorite team, and we'll know that Chelsea won when we're back next week. But in the meantime, their coach Enzo Maresca is looking ahead to the FIFA Club World Cup final against Paris Saint-Germain. Now, he has said he's seen a glimpse of the squad depth at his disposal, given the frequency of the matches. Now, a player that has benefited immensely from the squad rotation is attacker Christopher Nkunku.
We try to give them the chance when they deserve. In this moment, if Christo is playing, it's because he deserved to play. And again, I think today was good. He had some moment that he could score. He had some moment that he had some chance. But overall, I think he had a good game.
Now,
sorry, Zai. By the way, if Chelsea doesn't win this cup on Friday, the subject is closed. We're not talking about this on Monday. By decree and order. Please go ahead.
And if Chelsea crumble, you're bringing a blue cupcake for all of us. Anyway, let's go to Banyana. They've got their WAFCON title defense on. Remember, they started with that 2-0 win over Ghana. Tonight, 9 p.m., they'll face Tanzania in Ujda. Coach Desiree Ellis knows that she will have to be focused tonight. And rugby, South African veteran fullback Willie Leroux will reach an impressive 100 test caps, and that's in tomorrow's second test against Italy in Gqeberha. Now, winger Edwil van der Merwe, he's looking to reclaim the Springbok jersey in Gqeberha after a long wait following his debut in Twickenham in 2024. The 29-year-old admitted he's determined not to be a one-cap Bok.
Just being back in the mix, playing for the Bok is a massive honour and a privilege, something that I've worked really hard towards again. And I think it'll be extra special, like you said, playing on home soil. My parents are driving up from Cape Town, my wife will be here and my sister, so having the family in the stands as well, that's a special moment for them as well. the biggest goal of mine was to play for the Springboks, and when I got one cap, I told myself I don't want to be a one cap Bok. So to get this opportunity again, I'm very grateful.
And finally, athletics. South Africa's Olympic legend Caster Semenya scoring a landmark victory at the European Court of Human Rights Grand Chamber with the ruling that Switzerland denied her a fair hearing for her challenge to World Athletics testosterone rules. While the court stopped short of calling the rules discriminatory, she's now been granted over 1.6 million rand in legal costs and extend her chance for her case to be heard again in Swiss courts or the Court of Arbitration of Sport. Semenya retired from competition and is now coaching. More on this and other sports stories at 12:30 with John Hedeka. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, Makgoti Tobagale, says there will be consequences for unit managers overseeing wings of the prisons where contraband, including drugs, cell phones and counterfeit goods have been confiscated. The Specialised Commercial Crimes Court in East London has heard that some important documents pertaining to the recruitment processes of Sizwe Kupelo's application for the communications officer position at the Office of the Premier in the Eastern Cape are missing. And President Cyril Ramaphosa will hold an inaugural meeting with members of the Eminent Persons Group at the Union Buildings this morning. The President is expected to outline the expectations and mandate of the group. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we had a free-flowing Friday earlier on the M1 South through Midrand, but that's changed. There's now been a collision just at Olifantsfontein, and that's backing traffic up through to Samrand. So if you're on your way out of Pretoria to Joburg expecting an easy Friday, need to recalculate that calibration. It is very slow. Over in Durban, probably the heaviest of the suburban backlogs this morning is the run out of Verulam down to Phoenix. A collision on the R102 down by Phoenix Highway by Trade Centre. Really heavy, just south of Verulam down through Palmview and Chris Harney, the local alternative, that's under a bit of pressure as well. A lot of traffic in that part of Durban this morning. Key Ridge, Cliffdale, all cleared up on your way to Durban. A jackknife truck earlier at Cliffdale, then some delays after that down around Key Ridge, but it's all sort of normalising. And Cape Town, busiest of the highways, the elevated freeway over the foreshore into the city centre. Protesting on Govan and Becky this morning at the bottom of Nyanga, just down by Steve Beaker. That's on top of the roadworks there that have been forever. So if you're moving between Khayelitsha and the Cape Flats, Khayelitsha and sort of Wynberg, Claremont, avoid Govan and Becky. And Klipfontein Road heading through from Athlone up towards Sabre Park in the M5. It's quite an unusual queue there as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Okay, one more time while we still have her in studio, just for today. Ndawling, let's start with this massive Vodacom deal.
Yes.
The agreement that was reached with the Competition Commission, that's being welcomed as well by one of the people who took an unprecedented step, the Minister Park Stow.
That's right, Thulas. Minister Tao welcoming the move as the Competition Commission made a U-turn on the Vodacom massive deal, now agreeing to proceed with the firm's 13 billion rand fibre merger. This deal, which has been in the works for nearly 4 years, involves Vodacom taking a stake in Massive, with both parties committing to investments in SA's digital infrastructure. Now, as part of the agreement, Vodacom will invest about 14 billion rands into digital infrastructure, including fiber rollout to 1 million homes in low-income areas and creating 10,000 jobs. Massive will also invest about 10 billion rands over 5 years, focusing on fiber rollout to those million homes. The minister believes this merger will improve access to affordable internet for underserved communities and bring in billions into the economy. Looking at what happens next, now the matter will still be heard at the Competition Appeals Court on the 22nd of July. It will go through the appeals court unopposed. The regulator says this is required to overturn the competition tribunal's decision to prohibit the transaction. The minister's support for the transaction is seen as a positive force for the country's trade, industry and competition efforts.
So that answers the question that I think I asked you a few days ago to say how mechanically, how does it unfold? So the Competition Commission will not oppose at the appeals court. Interesting. Some good news, factory activity improving slightly in May.
Some signs of a recovery, with production rising just 0.5% according to Stats SA. Now, the growth was driven by the basic iron and steel, non-ferrous metals product and machinery division, which increased 4.3%. However, the motor vehicles, parts and other transport equipment sector remained a significant drag, shrinking 6.7%. The food and beverages sector also declined, falling 3% and subtracting 0.8 percentage points from overall growth. Now, despite the improvement, it still seems unclear if the uplift in April and May will be sustained. Kevin Links-Stanlib, chief economist, is more positive about the industry's prospects, saying the improvement will help offset the decline we saw in the first quarter from the industry, and then saying that the sector is most likely to positively contribute to the economy into the second quarter.
Lastly, Ntaoleng, what kind of a Friday can we look forward to in the markets?
So local markets likely to start mixed. Another slim day when it comes to companies' news here at home, with the JSE taking its cues from its global peers. Higher commodity prices still likely to boost markets and the rand. Looking at the rand, it is sitting at 17.78 to the dollar this hour. And then over in the US markets, or rather futures, are in negative territory. All focused on that front now shifts to earnings season, which is set to kick off next week. Lastly, in Asia, markets on track to close the week strong on bets of further stimulus from the Chinese government.
Thank you, Ntaoleng. Do you want to be here on Monday?
I don't think so.
Can I tell you, we're going to be having more pastry. Okay, more pastry stuff is happening on Monday.
Considering that I came today, I kept my promise and brought pastries. I think I deserve a special delivery.
So Zai has said, whether Chelsea wins or loses on Sunday, I should bring Chelsea buns.
So you don't have a choice in this. You basically don't have a choice.
So Chelsea buns are the next item of pastry. Ntaoleng, it's been good having you in studio. That's Ntaoleng.
We are woven into the same soil that shapes South Africa. Its dreams, its energy, its promise. These guide us. Together, we've built progress hand in hand, from the mines to bustling main streets, from one generation to the next. With communities, government and partners, every initiative from healthcare to education, youth empowerment to entrepreneurship lights the way forward. Because we don't just mine minerals, we mine possibility and progress with purpose. Together, we're shaping what's next, mining potential, building beyond. Anglo-American.
I'm Shakira O'Malley and I'm a centre back. What I like so much about living in South Africa is the beaches. So being able to go to the beach and just relax and just let go of literally everything. I had a good laugh this morning at breakfast. I think we were all just having a conversation. Everybody was interacting. If I won $1 million after a good game, I'd definitely not tell my teammates. Definitely not. I'm taking that $1 million and going home. Tune in to SABC Sport to watch Banyana compete at the AFCON and defend another title.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
So quite a backlog of me taking your voice notes. So let me do exactly that. I think I take about 4 before I go on to the calls. Let me pull myself back a little bit.
Thulasizwe Simelane. If you can drive into the township sometimes, you'll see like the police van, marked or unmarked, parking at the, colluding with a criminal, parking at the drug lost people and all the time. So thanks for Mkwanasi, to exposing this. Maybe they will limit him because the government give the police more powers than any other structure into this country. Particularly here, the Kuruleni.
Good morning, Mr. Thulasizwe and your producer and all the listeners of SAFM. I like to say all South Africa must support Mr. Mkwanas to be a president of this country. The reason why I'm saying this, he's the one who can fight all this crime. Mr. Thulasizwe, we are sick and tired of ANC. because those people, they are involved with the corruption, but we don't even see one of them, they go to rot in jail. They support one another with this corruption. We are facing so many challenges in this country because of ANC. That is my concern. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. The other big talking point for this morning has been the proposal by the ATM for a constitutional amendment that would change the name of the country from Republic of South Africa to, I guess, Republic of Azania. But basically, Azania would be a part of it. Of course, it's part of many other proposed changes that they are bringing forth. So we spoke to Vuyo Zungula a bit earlier on. Let me play one or two voice notes that are responding to that conversation.
Good morning, Tulas. It's Dr. Zondia from Pietermaritzburg. Sometimes South Africans admire Zungula and the ATM, but the name change of the country is not the priority right now. We've got so many problems. Let's solve the poverty, the unemployment, inequality, and the infrastructure problem. Then the name, we can get back to the name. It's not the priority right now. Thank you.
Good morning, Tulas. Tulas, our country is facing a lot of problems. For instance, corruption, unemployment. I feel like the thing of changing names, it's unnecessary. I think the house must be cleaned first before the changing of names. We are facing many problems in this country. Thanks from Andy in Willowvale, Eastern Cape.
All right, thank you for those. Let me go straight to the calls now. Let me start with Eunice. Eunice, good morning to you in Joburg. You want to talk about the Sindiso Makaka case?
Yes, Thulasizwe. One of the killers of Sindiso was sentenced last week.
Yes.
And the National Police Commissioner Fani Mosemola has applauded that, and we all applaud that. But however, my point is, are we ever going to get to the truth of who ordered the hit? And that is a critical part that's missing here. So that is a politically motivated crime, one. Same with Babita Deokaran. I mean, that case is going on for some time. There are 4 or 5 people standing trial there. Will we ever know who ordered that hit? Similarly, these two are politically motivated. You take the likes of Advocate Pete Mihalik. He was gunned down in Cape Town. 2 people were convicted and are in jail now. We don't know who ordered that hit. Similarly, Advocate Nodia, the SARS commissioner, who was gunned down in an attempted assassination in a hotel room, outside the hotel in Amhlanga. 2 people have been charged there. We don't know who ordered that hit. So the question is, we're getting these convictions of people being charged, but I don't think the entire story is not being told. Now, I think it's an injustice, for example, to Sindiso's family that one, they're quite happy that, and I heard his widow on another station saying the same thing, that they really want to know who ordered the hit. And I think that link is missing, and I think the president should definitely look at it.
I don't know if you saw the guilty plea statement, because when you make that guilty plea, you then have to disclose in full detail your participation in the crime, who you worked with and the likes. It names people there. You're not satisfied. Do you think that there are more people that should have been named? The ultimate kingpin should have been named.
Exactly, the kingpins in these crimes should be brought. Then we know who ordered. Like in Babita's case, he uncovered the fraud or tenderpreneurs there. They were involved in the fraud there, but we're not going to ever know who ordered these people to do the hits there.
All right.
So I think that missing link has to be filled in here.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
That's Eunice in Joburg making that point there about the ultimate kingpins in these crimes. Tabiso in Polokwane, good morning. You want to talk about illicit cigarettes?
Yeah, no. But before that, Tula, I have not seen a statement of DA with the arrest of the former police, Nyoka.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not seen the statement, welcoming the fact that our judiciary system, after all these years, they were able to, after an inquest, get deeper, and someone was arrested and was given almost 15 years in jail. But I don't expect it.
I feel like there's a point you want to make about them not issuing a statement. So, Tavi, you say a lot without saying much. So go ahead, finish your point.
I have not seen, but I don't expect it. Of course, I don't expect it. But you see, Thulas, we must be very excited about what happened on Sunday, and I'm going to tell you why. And I'm linking it basically on the illicit cigarettes and illicit alcohol, because a majority of our people are complaining about police corruption. To say no. How many times do you hear stories about illicit cigarettes crossing the border from Zimbabwe coming to South Africa? Every time, I mean, what millions, and is where we are now. So therefore, I think what the president will be telling us will also be able to deal with what we call police corruption, because that's the one that perpetuates crime in this particular country.
Yeah.
Because generally, when the justice system, particularly police, accept bribes from those that bring illicit cigarettes, you end also alcohol, which we are told that the alcohol part, we are told that it has serious health implications to majority of South Africans, particularly those that consume.
Yeah.
So we are in deep trouble, and I hope and believe that whatever the president will announce will be able to fix the police in this particular country. And people who are police will then therefore say, I'm not police because I want to serve the public.
Thabiso, thank you for that. And thank you for making that point. And I think it adds to the response to that message I read earlier on that was asking why we're giving the cigarette companies so much airtime. I think Thabiso talking to it quite nicely there. The crime ecosystem. Because these people who commit these crimes then have to commit other crimes to back up and support and hide and basically to just mete out consequences to anyone who tries to expose them. It becomes a crime ecosystem, and syndicates is the word. Syndicates become a prevalent feature in our crime situation. And I think that really neatly sums it up. Thando Guhle in Kambatini, good morning to you. You want to talk about taxes?
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe. This is Thando Guhle from Kambatini. I think what can help government to collect more taxes, if maybe we can stop using cash in terms of literal cash. Whatever we do, we go online, because if we go online, EFT, that money can be traced. It's coming from who is going to where. Like when we are using cash, you go to shop, you buy whatever you want to buy. I think government doesn't collect more money on that. Not only all people who are honest in terms of paying their tax, but if government collects all the money, can happen. And then we say, if someone steals from a public purse, the act must be amended. That in terms of when we have been fined, stealing from public purse is regarded as a treason.
Sure.
If we can go that route, I think it can help. You know, when you go to shops, even they say, we want cash. I have a card. No, we want cash, you know. So that is a problem that we are facing. If we can do so, we can help the government to raise more money.
What an interesting point that you make there, Thando. You would be very unpopular with a number of sectors in our economy where cash is king. But thank you for making that point. That's Thando Guhle in Mkambatini. Let me go to John in Midrand. Good morning to you, John. You want to talk to me about Nhlanhla Mkhwana's?
Morning, Brother Thulas. Yes, I want to talk about the whole issue, but I want to look at it from this angle. You know, the I don't know what you call them, the analysts, like Mary Haas and the other one, Paul O'Sullivan. So I was watching SABC last night, Kembegile Mkototo and the Bongiwe show, and he was interviewing Mary Haas, who made some serious allegations herself. I was just also triggered by her. You know, she said on that interview that she's got a lot of information that is given to her by the police, you know, confidential information of things that are wrong that are being done by General Mkhwana. I found that very disturbing, because if she has that information in her possession, it is a duty upon her to go and report that those criminal activities that are being conducted by General Mkhwana. I then took myself time to look up who Merite Ahas is really, and I see SABC continues to use her for a lot of times. I see that she's a qualified social worker. and she has been conferred an LLD qualification, but and a violence monitor. I'm trying to understand the relevance of a commentary with regards to the whole issue of Mr. Mkhwanazi.
Gotcha.
And I'm really not sure if her commentary is getting us anywhere, because I believe she's playing in a space that she doesn't deserve.
All right,
she's,
John.
She's a social worker.
Yeah.
And I see she's been given so much platform to talk about issues that are above her pay grade.
Gotcha. John, thank you for
very
that. That's John in Midrand making that point, and I think I've heard it quite a number of times, just the criticism of some of the commentators around this particular story. It is a criticism that I've also picked up in the last few days. Tula in Bedford View, good morning to you.
Sawubona Tula Sunja.
Ngirayit kunjani ba?
Hayi, ngiphilile mina. I hope you do realize that you are our ears and our mouth to everything that goes around.
I appreciate that.
Where am I headed to? The story of those three police officers that died in Midrand in a car accident. May you kindly make follow-up to and hear what happened to them and the bodies that, the other two bodies that were found with them. And then the last thing is, you've been briefed about the donuts, ne? Don't forget that.
On Monday, we'll brief about the Chelsea ban. Okay. Tula, thank you for that. But I must say, though, Tula, as I let you go, that I almost feel ashamed. I do recall specifically making an undertaking, and I am ashamed that we didn't follow through, about that incident in which those three police officers died in the Henops River. I did say that it's a valid point. We need to follow through on it. So I'll take this one, but it's on all of us as a team that we made an undertaking. It is a story that does have an open question as to who were the other people, who's the one person, for example, whose body was found. Then there was another police officer, who was from around that particular area. We kind of need to close the loop. And I think it's incumbent on SAPS communication as well to just not leave it hanging, close the loop for us. Are you investigating, linked to what, etc.? That's a valid point. And I'm ashamed that I did not follow through as I had undertaken.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just an update on the Linwood Road closure going into Pretoria. The road closed towards Brooklyn Road, so there is a little bit of localised congestion around that one. The N1 South between Samrand and New Road remains busy. Also crash as you pass Olifantsfontein Road. The N3 North just backlogging through Galulis this morning. Looks like an issue just inside the interchange coming up the N3 onto the N12 East. If you're airport or Boksburg Benoni bound, that's a delay. The N3 between Pietermaritzburg and Durban is currently flowing. There is a stationary truck at Cliffdale just to watch out for, so that may just start to slow down. The other big problem is coming out of Verulam down in towards Phoenix and Mount Edgecombe. A crash on the R102 near the Phoenix Highway. That R102 is having the Chris Harney option, and the Phoenix Highway coming out to Trade Centre. That's all very busy in that part of town. Cape Town easing up nicely this morning. The earlier delays, Nelson Mandela Boulevard around Rullebloem with a taxi crash. That's all out of the way. The elevated freeway going into the city centre is probably the biggest delay. And just a reminder about the protesting on Govan and Becky at Steve Biko Drive, bottom of Nyanga, if you like. If you're moving between Khayelitsha and sort of Claremont-Weinberg, try and avoid Govan and Becky protesting there, and also the long-term roadworks having a delay impact. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana Banyana want nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Let's end it off with one of the big stories of the week. The Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benen has completed 4 days of testimony before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating allegations of sexual harassment made by Andiswa Mengo, a judge's secretary. The tribunal, which concluded cross-examination on Thursday, is probing whether Benenge's interactions with Mengo via WhatsApp and in person constituted gross misconduct, which could lead to impeachment and loss of all judicial benefits if proven. So tracking that for us all week has been SABC News reporter Kenny Mapanga, who joins us now to wrap it all up for us. Good morning to you, Kenny. I caught large chunks of the cross-examination, especially in the last few days. How would you sum it up? It seemed to be quite spirited and quite tense at times, and a bit of a tussle between the judge and the evidence leader. At least that was my observation.
Yeah, indeed. Good morning to you, Tulas, and to the listeners. I think when cross-examination happens, the purposes of it is to test the version that has been placed before the tribunal. And you expect that at the very least there'll be some resolve to some of the disputes that you've seen before the tribunal. But I think two versions still currently stand before the tribunal as to what happened or didn't happen between the pair. But I think it's important to note that Advocate Skeepers was not cross-examining a layperson. I mean, this is a top jurist. This is someone who has had significant experience in the legal space and as a judge, as well as rising to the ranks of judge president within 2 years. So I think on the issues on disputes, those are still hanging in the air. Those are the issues of the allegations of the Chamber's incident of alleged indecent exposure and the allegations of sending the images, the crude images, allegedly to the judge's secretary, Andiswa Mengo. The tribunal will have to resolve that issue, but I think during arguments we'll get more, clarity from the different parties as they put forth their argument. And then I think, Tulas, another major point that has been highlighted is that following the cross-examination and following the hearing of the evidence, we still see a judge president that doesn't see anything untoward with the particular conduct of a judge president pursuing a junior judge's secretary. We're also seeing that he is staying quite close to those denials. He's remaining firm in that particular position. And we also see that although he agrees that some of those conversations were sensual or sexual, whatever the case may be, we see him often drawing the lines on the use of emojis, refusing to connect those to sexual connotations. And then lastly, you also see him struggling to reconcile with the proposition that for the complainant, Andiswa Mengo, as per her testimony, these interactions between the pair to her were not consensual. You see him stating that at no point that did he get a no, but he almost struggles to reconcile with the proposition that although he didn't get an explicit no to his satisfaction, that consent may not have been granted in this instance. But this tribunal is not done yet, although his time on the stand is done, and the disputed versions still remain as they are. There are still arguments that still have to be made before the tribunal can formulate its report that will be given to the JSC, and they will then come up with an outcome or a finding as to whether or not sexual harassment took place in this case.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for that wrap. That's Kenny Mapanga, SABC News reporter. Just wrapping up what we heard in the last few days of that Judicial Conduct Tribunal hearing allegations of sexual harassment leveled against the Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benen. And by the way, that process will then come back in October for oral arguments, and then after that, the tribunal will then consider what it has heard from both sides, and then, at a later stage, come out with its decision. That's it, really. Our full and final account to you for in lieu of your morning brief for today. Don't go anywhere. More quality news, current affairs, and talk programming still to come here on SAFM, starting with The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana immediately after the news from N. Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, a crackdown at Westville Prison as inmates caught with contraband, and Ramaphosa to meet National Dialogue Imminent Persons Group. Good morning. The National Commissioner of Correctional Services, Makgoti Tobagale, says there will be consequences for unit managers overseeing wings of the prisons where contraband, including drugs, cell phones and counterfeit goods, have been confiscated. Tobagale was speaking to SABC News during a prison raid at the Westville Correctional Centre in Durban last night. These raids aim to maintain order, ensure safety and crack down on illegal activities within the facility. Narcotics, including mandrax, dagga, ecstasy, were among the items found in the raid. Several bottles of traditional beer were also confiscated. The South African Policing Union has called for Minister Senzo Mchunu to step aside following serious allegations against him by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. In a recent press conference, Mkhwanazi alleged that criminal syndicates have infiltrated the police and have influence over the minister. SAPO spokesperson Lisiba Tobagale says they are awaiting President Cyril Ramaphosa's address on the matter.
So we are saying that he is the right person to give direction. We are waiting for his leadership. His leadership in his term, in this regard, it is the biggest test that he is faced with. We are waiting for him to show leadership in this matter. He must be decisive on how he is dealing with this matter. But we are calling that the current Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, must be removed as the police minister. That is our firm position.
Meanwhile, speaking exclusively to SABC News, one officer revealed the corrupt activities that occur routinely during their daily duties, exposing the harsh realities faced on the front lines.
One day, when we were patrolling, we stopped a truck on the freeway. After we thoroughly checked it, we discovered plastic bags inside the truck. Those plastics had white powder-like items that looked like drugs to me. We told the driver that we were taking him to the police station so that we could call our dog unit to check if indeed these were not drugs. That driver made a call immediately. The person that picked up the call was a general from the police who told me that I should leave the driver alone because he was working for him.
The Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in East London has heard that some important documents pertaining the recruitment processes of Sizwe Kupelo's application for the communications officer position at the office of the Premier in the Eastern Cape are missing. Kupelo is accused of falsifying his matric certificate when he applied for the government post. Former Director of Communications in the Eastern Cape office of the Premier, Manelisi Wolela, testified that Kupelo, who's currently a Communications Deputy Director in the Provincial Health Department, would not have been shortlisted if the selection committee was aware he does not possess a matric certificate for the communication officer post he applied for in 2002. He said the minimum requirements for the communication post was matric and a degree or diploma, adding that matric was essential for the post.
We cannot source. That's why I'm asking whoever is investigating or whatever, why didn't they source the same documents that are missing in Mr. Kupelo's file from Mr. Spondo's file? Because the master list must be there in Mr. Spondo's file. The scoring of the members during the shortlisting must be there, including the minutes of the discussion. The letter recommending that the following shortlisted candidates should be interviewed because of the following considerations of the panel must be there in Mr. Pondo's file.
And finally, President Cyril Ramaphosa will hold an inaugural meeting with members of the Eminent Persons Group at the Union Buildings this morning. The President is expected to outline the expectations and mandate of the group. The members were appointed as ambassadors for South Africa's much-anticipated national dialogue. Sibahle Mota reports.
The presidency says in a statement that this morning's meeting with the Eminent Persons Group will be an opportunity for President Ramaphosa to outline the expectations and mandates of the chosen ambassadors. The group is also expected to share its views on the role and organization of the national dialogue. The ambassadors will thereafter receive a briefing from the National Dialogue Preparatory Task Team on the progress towards the first national convention, which is scheduled to take place next month.
Recapping the top story, the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, Mahoti Tobachale, says there will be consequences for unit managers overseeing wings of the prisons where contraband including drugs, cell phones and counterfeit goods have been confiscated. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. 30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The four-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to SAFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
SAFM Music. Good times, good memories.
I'm just lying. Somebody's fine.
Old school sounding so good. SAFM Music with you wherever you go.
The Morning Brief.
Is there room for more enforcement? Because you say 3 of these 4 boys were in illegal initiation schools.
Yes, part of the things that we think they are going to help us is to make sure that we engage with the police services and make sure that people who are engaged or involved in these illegal schools, at least they face the mighty law. Because we find that there is a lot of reckless among our communities, and if the police service is not helping us, this strategy is going to continue.
That's Thandekile Sabisa, the Deputy Executive Mayor of the OR Tambo District Municipality.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
I came to my dad in a very formal fashion. I said, Dad, I want to change my first name to Jennifer. His answer was as follows: no. Oh, no. Followed by a very harsh, you are African, you are Nigerian, most importantly, you are Igbo. You should be proud. And if I hear you mention this again, there's going to be a serious problem between me and you. After being rejected for the 1,000th time, I decided, you know what, let me ask myself, why do I dislike my name? Or more importantly, why do people dislike my name? A study done by the NBER faculty showed that when 5,000 CVs were sent out, all with the same credentials, but with one difference, that difference being a name, there was a 50% difference in callback rates. This means that as soon as an employer sees your name, they already start practicing unconscious bias. They start to create a stereotype about you. They see, for example, my name, Adobe Adibe, applying for an electrical electronic engineering internship. They see that I'm African. They see that I'm black. They see that I'm a female. And the two don't fit the narrative, should I say. So I had all of this information and I said, you know what, I want to make a change. And the best way to make any sort of change is to always start with yourself. So I decided to learn more about my history and my culture. And for those who don't have an ethnic sounding name, take a step forward. Ask yourself, am I being unconsciously biased? Am I creating a stereotype and perpetuating a false narrative? And if you see your colleague doing the same thing, call them out on it. I'm asking for all of us to take a step forward together to dismantle what has been embedded in society for far too long. Let's all challenge the narrative and reclaim our identity.
Those there are the reflections of Adayobi Adibe, a student at Manchester University, also a public speaker, and a point that I think she makes so well, especially